Hello, good afternoon everybody. Hope everybody's well. It's been a while since I've done a stream again. Been spending most of the last week A, recovering from being sick, and B, from like updating a lot of alts and trying to put in a lot of the new 3 monthly levels which we're going to have closing in the next week or so. And then also I haven't been doing a great deal on Bitcoin and Ether, so not much has changed since my last streams. I haven't even been putting in low time frame entries particularly, maybe a couple more. I've been giving a bit of commentary in the channel more than anything else. And yeah, so let's get started. So I'll just do the usual format, just quickly go through a bit of Tradfi to see what's happening there, because Bitcoin crypto is following it quite a lot lately. Have a look at Bitcoin, obviously, Ether, the ETFs, what data we've got there, and then yeah, like have a look through some alts, and then the plan is to do VELODROME on the watchlist, which is not too long, a bit longer than the last one I think, but I'll try and be quick. And like I say, there's not much new on everything, so but I say I'll try and be quick, and normally it takes still like an hour to get through my normal stuff. So yeah, quickly on the dollar. So for those who are trading FX, I've been watching this zone for a long time, and this was looking for the initial bounce off the top of the zone. It's a yearly zone, yeah, so it took its sweet time, a couple of weeks consolidating in here, but has now, or is now potentially trying to flip. I mean, the 4 hours a bit dubious because it's still finding resistance at the bottom of the drop, so it's still making just a range through here, but does now have 2-day demand. So interested to see what reaction we get in here. So yeah, we had good confluence here with the 61 fib of the entire move, and yeah, so in it is about time we had some sort of a retracement here. Oh, I don't know, I say that, you can look back over here and it could just fall all the way to the bottom here without much of a retracement. But yeah, we'll see what reaction we get on this 2-day demand as and when it hits, and if it flips that back to supply, then obviously we're looking for shorts to go down lower. Yeah, so that's the dollar. Excuse me if I start coughing, the cough is still here and it's not too bad, but if I start talking a lot it might come back. So Tradfi, obviously similarly we're getting the bounces finally on the indices, and it's going to be interesting because while they came back through monthly zones, we need to see, I think the Dow could potentially create a monthly supply. I think that might be a bit higher, or maybe it's around this price. Let's have a quick look at the Dow. Yeah, so I think this is the level basically price is currently at. So we've still got a week to go, but if we close below there, this is going to create a monthly supply. But as it stands, we're pushing enough to maybe negate the break of monthly demand. So I think it's the same on S&P. So you can see here, let me just take my drawings off, be a bit clearer. So you can see here, in the case of the Dow, it already had a couple of bounces on monthly demand and didn't manage to make a higher high, and then has come down deeper and has hit, I think, a 2-week or a 3-week or something in there. Like there were a few zones and it was just kind of giving very, very weak bounces off the zones. Yeah, there's a 3-week there that it's finally taken a bounce off. So it's very close to resistance right now. I've got an alert a little bit higher for weekly supply in there. So again, I just want to see if we're going to get continuation of the downtrend, or if this is more just sort of bear flag-ish, where we're just going to get a bounce straight back up and end up with a swing failure of the monthly zone. So we're looking for what rejection we're going to get, if any. So it's got a weekly supply here, and a weekly supply at the top was untested, did also leave equal highs at the top. So it could still, this still, while it's got bearish on the weekly, is still potentially could get held up by the monthly and then the 3-weekly demand at the lows. S&P and NASDAQ are sort of similar. They're less likely to create a monthly, or maybe they're more likely to, I don't remember now. Let's have a look at the monthly to confirm. Yeah, okay, so the monthly, if S&P closes below, what's that, 5888, then it's going to create a monthly supply, but at the moment it's pushing back up, and again we just need to see the close at the end of the month. This has a 3-weekly supply up here, so I've alerted that for the possibility of shorts, and is currently in a daily. So we're getting the equivalent push that I can see on my other screen on Bitcoin at the moment that's matching these retracements that we're finally getting on the indices. And yeah, so I haven't looked, while it could reject any of these daily, the one we've just gone with going through and into this daily zone. I'm just kind of looking more up here for the possibility of high probability shorts and just what reaction we get through there. And similarly, these have started creating daily and 2-day demands, which are holding. You can see NASDAQ similarly has come back through. I think NASDAQ was the one that is actually potentially stronger on the higher time frame. It's in 2-month demand at the base. It had a monthly, so it did come through, I think, the monthly above. And with both S&P and NASDAQ, I did think it was likely we were going to come through that monthly. It was not a strong zone, so it doesn't surprise me. And again, are we going to close with the swing failure here? But it's come off 2-monthly demand on a 3-week inside it. So again, we just need to see the reaction. Weekly is looking weak, but then the 2-monthly can pick this up and just go for new highs if it wants. This also has a few untested zones above. I think I had a 1-day supply there with the 2 weeks starting near the top once it confirmed. So that's where the alert is on that. So yeah, I just want to see what happens if and when these get up into this top zone and whether they're going to reject or continue. Yeah, so, and I don't think there's anything, there's nothing really else on the other indices. Tend to sort of half follow and half do their own thing. I think Russell was the only other one Russell's again, potentially more bearish because it's made a 2-month supply here, which I've alerted, but is also coming off a 3-month demand. Then Russell does like to do these double bottoms or very close, so you look for swing failures, but then it doesn't quite swing fail. So here, it didn't quite swing fail. Here, didn't quite swing fail, just made a double bottom. Here, took out the low, obviously, did swing fail, but then came back down and broke lower. So it's always hard to know if Russell's going to actually come back for all these levels eventually. I think back at the ultimate low in 2003. But Russell was one, compared to the other US indices, that obviously is more structurally bearish, having made a swing fail at the high and a double top. So my estimate for a Russell is that it's going to come down and take out these lows, but obviously it might take a year to do that, so we just need to trade what we see in the interim. For now we are on a 3-month demand, so looking for a reaction as we hit this 2-month supply. There's another bunch of equal highs through here, which it did just swing fail on the rejection there, which was kind of annoying because I wanted it to come up to here, I think, and I've got other shorts up near the top should it get that high. So while this is a 2-month supply here and there's a monthly inside it at the level just above here, yeah, I don't know, if we start pushing into this zone, I suspect it's likely we're going to take out those highs even on a wick. Yeah, so that's the indices. Bitcoin. So, okay, Bitcoin itself, as you know, we're basically hitting the level that I've had marked previously. It was this 8-hour supply. There's another little level a little bit higher that I thought maybe it could go to. The interesting thing, what we're going to have with Bitcoin today is whether we're going to create a 3-day demand. So just hide my drawing. So there's the blue line that I had here. Like if this creates a 3-day demand, then we're likely to get a push up higher. However, it's Tuesday, and what we can sometimes get on Monday, Tuesday is we have the Monday candle here, the possibility of the Tuesday candle taking out the high and then coming back down to fill the CME gap. So be conscious that even if it does create a 3-day demand here, I suppose we probably want to see the rejection off here quite quickly if it's going to reject. But yeah, just be conscious that this could create a 3-day demand, and if it does, then we may not fill that gap. Although, having said that, it can, even if this is a 3-day demand, the gap is still inside it, so it could still just come deeper into the 3-day demand. But if that happens, I'll probably be a bit more bullish, whereas here I've just been a bit on the fence about this because we had 2-day demands created, and a lot of the alts look like this as well. But we had all these sort of 1-day, 2-day demands created, and now we've got a bit of a push off, and some of the alts have had a much bigger push off here. And obviously Bitcoin is a bit more challenged, but we are also in this quite bearish channel. And I was looking back and I can't find really any PA that's that similar to this to kind of compare. Like, so my instinct tends to be when we have a channel like this that it looks bearish and that it's weak and it's going to take out the lows. But I think maybe I found one example where it did and one where it didn't. But, you know, other than, you know, what it can also be is sort of a vertical accumulation that then takes off. So, and the other thing with this is, I guess, while I wanted this 72k zone, you know, I had this potential front run zone at the question mark. And yeah, so a lot of people are waiting for down here. So it may, you know, what can happen when that's the case is that it may not get given. And you can see we also we're hitting this long-term trend line as well. I can't remember where that's from. Might be all the way from the low. All the way back down. No, it's not all the way from the low, so there is another one. So the lower one is all the way from the low, but this one is from September 23. So the lower one is down here. So yeah, we're just seeing, you know, like I was looking back to here, the similar structures that we've got over here. I guess here's similar, like a sort of vertical accumulation, and it came up before a drop, so that is a possibility. You know, like as you know, we had monthly supply above. So this rejection here was off monthly supply, but there was a weekly inside it, and then there's a whole bunch of wicks here. So it is possible we do a similar takeoff pattern like this before coming down and taking out those stops. So we need to just see what we're going to get here, and once I finish the alts, I'll start doing more on this again, and I'll start also scalping it myself, and then I'll be able to give more kind of up-to-date entries. So the other thing with this, so then from a confluence perspective, CME is kind of like similar to the US dollar pair, so there's nothing really extra on that, like locally for confluence. Korea was the one that, again, I wanted. I think I commented yesterday in the channel that while this has hit daily supply, the 8 hour inside this is a little bit higher, so I said maybe I want another push for Korea, and it's obviously cleanly come off the top of that daily level there. And similarly on US dollar dominance, we're still in this bigger 2 month supply and hit a monthly inside it, so this could have a bigger rejection, but we are still in 5-day demand. And again, I wanted that to hit at least this 8 hour and see what the reaction was there, and then if we're going to go up for another run. So now, you know, it could just drop off from here, it's possible, and I was looking at previous structures for comparison, but, you know, we do have other scenarios, this pattern's, for example, where, you know, it looks bearish and it drops off, but it just comes into a demand. I don't know if there was a bigger demand here as well before another push. So I do think it's possible that while this is looking ugly at the moment, that we could get a bounce either in here, maybe on the 4 hour a bit lower. But yeah, keep the confluence in mind anyway if you're trading Bitcoin, because that will make your entries much higher probability. So yeah, that's kind of it on Bitcoin really. Like nothing more I want to add. I guess just to reiterate my entries, you know, should they get given, that obviously now was the first possibility of a short entry. Secondly, if we take out the high that came into monthly supply up here into weekly supply, so to the upside, and then I think, you know, I've deleted a few zones, I think, but there's a 3-day and a daily, and I think various untested are higher than that. If we drop down on the macro, I'm looking, there's a 4-day here, which would slightly front run the 3-month level. And then there's a weekly inside and various CME closes and other possibilities of zones, like should we drop down in there, but I wouldn't suggest knife catching particularly unless you're an investor and you're just DCAing on the very high time frame. Oh yeah, on the lower time frame, let me just cover that quickly. So Bitcoin, so this is, you know, these are the kind of tighter entries that I wanted. So there was, I've talked about these before, there's an 8 hour supply there, and then there was a 30-minute here, and I think a couple of them might be too low time frame now for the length of time it's taken to get here, but there were a couple of equal highs here into 30-minute supply that I thought could get pushed to. So again, like I say, we're just looking for, are we going to take out this high and swing fail here for the Tuesday candle, and then potentially look for a drop Wednesday, Thursday. I haven't put an entry here because, so this is a monthly open, the CME close, mainly because I haven't thought it through too much yet, but you know, like I say, I just don't like this kind of bear pattern. However, the bear pattern obviously can continue. It just depends how long it takes. You know, it's here, retrace, here, retrace, here, retrace. You know, so it's, you know, it could here retrace and just continue if it wants. So you can look potentially at entries around here if the CME gap gets closed. But for the moment I just had alerted, so there was another CME gap left down on the previous Thursday's candle, just in that 1 hour close overnight. So I did previously have an alert there, mainly at this point in time when I thought we were going to take out a lot of the stops from these hourly candles. So I'm going to leave that alert there because this is the first bounce, and I do think it's possible we get a bounce there. You know, it's starting to, I'll see what the fibs are, but it's, you know, it's in the golden fib zone, so we may get a bounce in this area if we do retrace down there. So yeah, those are the things to keep an eye on the lower time frame. Now, ETFs. I've just realised I haven't closed my office door, so give me 30 seconds and I'm going to close my office door. I will be back. Excuse me, I'm back. Okay, yeah, so just a quick look at the ETF. So yesterday, I think there wasn't much action particularly. Maybe it was a sell from Grayscale. I'll have a look at the aggregated data in a minute. Today, we've just, it seems to be a bit messy. Like, I have only just looked at this a couple of minutes before the stream, but that was 23 hours ago, so 9 hours ago. So we've had a bit of messing around from Bitwise, who appears to be buying and then moving around, so it's hard to judge. But it looks, I think, more like there's more activity than there is. Got a sell there from Valkyrie and a bigger buy from Fidelity, or from that Cumberland DRW to Fidelity. I don't know whether that's a transfer or a buy. But we have had some buying over the past week. So we had all this selling at the start of March. So now since the 14th of March, we have had positive net flows every day, which is nice, but they're not very high in the grand scheme of things, and they're certainly still significantly lower than the selling that we had. So, yeah, yesterday I thought we had a sell from Grayscale, maybe it was last week, but that's not in, or it hasn't been updated yet. But yeah, so small amounts of buying yesterday and some decent buying last week was finally happening, so that's more promising. And my other data set, because they differ slightly for some reason, again showing the buying in the totals. This had a sell from ARK yesterday and buying elsewhere. Does the ARK sell show? Yes, okay, so that is consistent. So this first source is in US dollar terms, and this second source is in Bitcoin terms. So yeah, we have had some buying on that, and again, it's just not very high in the grand scheme of things, but it's more promising than all the selling we've had previously. Yeah, so I think that's pretty much it on Bitcoin. Like I say, I'll start getting to the bigger analysis at some point. I think probably the only other thing to say on this actually is one thing I did have a look at, is that while I don't love the lows on this, we should be conscious that Grayscale has hit the 3-monthly level here. And I'm still, you know, I'm not convinced about that in isolation, to be honest, because when you look at IBIT, and the newer ETFs, Grayscale obviously has more history, but the newer ETFs, the 3-month is still lower, same as the normal US dollar pair. So, you know, again, we've just got this choppy up move that's looking pretty corrective at the moment. You know, it has filled a gap here, so I guess, you know, again, it can find support there, but the preference would be a bit lower. Similarly, when I looked at the Grayscale, let me think, things like, I was just trying to get a general sense of the market. So when I was looking at, let me go to the higher time frame, just the Grayscale alts, again, just all slightly front running where I want them to be, or actually not all slightly, but so BCH obviously slightly lower, The digital large cap, I would want quite a lot lower, so that's similar to Bitcoin really. Litecoin, again, just a bit above where I would want to bounce. ETC is actually at a decent level, so I'm okay with that. XLM, again, is also at, like, I don't love this anyway, but this is also at a support, but preferably would want that down there. So all of these, I think, have a bit of scope to move down if they want to, so just be conscious of that as well. And don't get super bullish on Bitcoin. And, you know, for me, I just trade in both directions, so it makes little difference to me, but that's that. Let me go back to the, what chart did I put that on? I did put that up there. Put my charts back to how they are normally. And I think we've got a similar scenario with, what's happened to my career chart, with total, so all the totals actually are all on this 3-month zone. So total itself, again, looks similar to Bitcoin, just pushing into 5-day supply, coming off monthly demand. Total 2 came a bit lower because obviously it's driven by Ether, but again, on the monthly demand inside the 2 months, so also at a decent point for a decent up move if it wants to. Total 3, which is, I think, yeah, that's without the top 10. Or is it without Ether? Where my info panel's gone. Sometimes I forget. Okay, yeah, no, this is excluding BTC and Ether. Again, on 3-month demand, so it can be primed for an up move here. But we just need to see things push through these local supply and others as well on, you know, on the monthly inside the 2 months second hit. So it is about time we get some retracement on the alts, and we are seeing some of that now. But so with the alts particularly, we do have have this structure where they've got a weekly or a 2-weekly, and they've got a 5-day underneath that are in various forms of this. And, you know, some of them are pushing through, and I'm finding the ones that are pushing through are the ones that are coming off a major demand. But then there are some that I'm still alerting for possible shorts here or here, because they're the ones that either have no support here, or ones that are just, or have broken that support and are in just a bigger downtrend. So alts have been really nice, actually. Been getting some really nice trades in both directions on them, and the alerts have been working quite well lately, which I always like. And total DeFi is pretty much the same. Again, it's more one of the weaker ones, it's come all the way down to the bottom of that monthly, but now is having a decent bounce there. BTC dominance, again, it's just pretty slow. So obviously we were looking for that rejection on the 6-month supply there, but it's made a 2-month demand, so it's still consolidating and thinking about what it's doing. You know, this can still get another push up for a retest, I think. I've got a feeling this is not going to go higher than here. It's just a question of, you know, how much it retraces before we get a bigger drop, in my opinion. Just trying to think, but I guess, you know, with that we've got to consider where the money's going to flow. Is the money going to flow into US dollar dominance, or is it going to flow into alts, and are we going to have some sort of mini alt season? My sense is that we're not going to have a major alt season, not like people keep thinking we're going to have one, i.e. like here. You know, I just think, I mean, the whole price action for the last 2 years has been very, very corrective. And yes, I mean, it's possible we'll break out, but again, like, we're still seeing this immediate downtrend. And I've said before, you know, this is a swing fair of the low. This could potentially take off on others' dominance, but I need to see something flip. And here, you know, we're still struggling with this local weekly supply, and under this daily. And then we've got a 2-month supply immediately above. We're going to confirm, or we have already confirmed, a 3-month, no, the 3-month might confirm. So again, like I say, I've started putting that 3-month supply in on a lot of alts, and this is how a lot of the alt charts are looking now. So they're even going to need to rescue themselves in the next week before the 3-month closes, or a lot of them are going to have a 3-month supply inside or near the big 2-month that they already have. So at the moment, I'm not overly bullish. But yeah, I guess we'll see. Like, there's things I need to see in order to change my view. You know, I can't, you know, I've said many times that we are in annual demand. We have hit 6 months inside it. We have swing failed. So there are positive signs. But then positive signs of being on support, but then we still need to see something that shows that that support's going to give us some sort of a decent reaction, which so far we're not seeing. If we do get it, then maybe we will finally get an alt season, because we do have this sort of correction down, retest, swing fail here, then we would expect to maybe take out those highs and go into here. But I don't want to preempt anything. I still just need to see what this is going to do in here, and also what this is going to do when it hits that 2-month zone there. And hopefully that doesn't mean I miss everything, but if we start to see that kind of strength, that's great. And I'll get onto the alts in a minute anyway, but so I want to see with alts, I want to see a lot of these supplies breaking and then demands holding. And we've got a little bit of supply breaking so far, but the demand holding still needs to be tested on the higher time frames. Everything has the 1-2 days and that are holding, but quite a lot today. I think we'll make a 4-day, maybe I think the 3-day and 4-day close today. So we're going to have quite a lot of 3- and 4-day demands on alts, which will be interesting to see then when they're retested. So Ether Bitcoin pair has come down to, I have to go higher time frame, not lower time frame. So Bitcoin pair has come down and taken out this low, which is good. My next zone of interest was, I noticed that this 2-month down here hadn't been properly hit, so I was wondering if we'd come even further and take out those lows, but this is at a point it could bounce. But obviously Ether, there's been many points throughout here that it could bounce, and it just doesn't bounce very hard. So we just need to see, again, need structure to tell us. And I was hoping, I did make a week daily demand in here today, but again, I was hoping we'd make that 3-day demand. You see where the purple dashed line is, if we get a close above there today. But again, it's left this daily untested here, so perfect world, this comes back through here and gets the bounce and runs. But again, like I say, don't get carried away, because similar, this is obviously we didn't have the wick this time round, but here we've got a few up moves, a few dailies holding before finally we get a bigger breakdown. In this case, it didn't even hit supply up there. So but yeah, for now, look for that 3-day demand to get confirmed or not today, and then possibly a test on this daily at the base if you're wanting to buy Ether over BTC. I don't know why my career pairs have suddenly grayed themselves out, but I'll investigate that afterwards. The US dollar pair, we have similar scenario to Bitcoin, where the CME gap, it almost got closed on this, and I feel like maybe that gap doesn't matter so much on the Ether pair. I think it got very close to getting closed, whereas Bitcoin, not so much. So where is the close? So sorry, I put this, it's on the CME chart, not on this chart. But yeah, the close on Friday is here. And that obviously came very, very close to the close there. So maybe this gap is less of an issue. So on Ether, I sort of talked about previously that I wanted to see the reaction in this 5-day or 4-day supply up there first. And I've said, that Ether now for me is awkward, because we're coming off 3-month demand at the lows. We were waiting for that entry. It came down deeper inside, didn't quite get to my next entry. So we are on 3-month demand, and I still did want a bit lower on this weekly or even the daily inside it. The daily is because the 61 fib is at this level. So at the moment we're just, we are in the last down move. We are just retracing that, so this can very easily happen. So again, don't get super bullish on this. Take longs if you want, based on the fact we're on 3-month demand, but be conscious we are still under local supply in this. And that's only the local waves. Then similarly, from the bigger picture, we've still got, this is still our down move, so this is still possible even if we do go higher in the zones. So yeah, and like I say, the zones aren't that clear because of this big Trump fuckery candle, and then so many zones above haven't been tested. So I've just tried to align with 61 fib. So this last down move, the 61 fib was at the cross. I'll talk about this black one in a second, but that's the 61 fib of the most recent down move. Then I did a fib from that down move, and the 61 fib is up at the next cross. So yeah, I've tried to just align with the 61 fibs, because for the most part, these have been pretty reliable on Ether lately. I guess this weekly isn't at a 61 fib. I think I added that back since the last stream actually. I had so many entries that I kind of tried to cull them down. You know, my preferred short entries would be here. This is the 61 fib of the entire drop. So those are my preferred shorts up there, but then these are interim zones that may or may not give entries for bigger picture or for scalps in the interim. Excuse me. This mid entry was a bit of a tough one. You know, I said that because we had these previous wicks here and then this broken level here, I said, okay, maybe given we've got the 61 fib in that area, we would get a rejection there. My alert actually went over here, but we're still in the same area. I didn't reset the alert because it's not a zone I was particularly confident about in the first place, but we are kind of hanging out in the same area at the moment. But similar to Bitcoin, we are going to create, or potentially can create, a 3-day demand in here. So I just want to see what the reaction is. Again, similar to Bitcoin, we have the CME close down here, the gap that was left from the last 2 Thursdays ago. And there is a possibility that we take out these wicks and come back down into this area, even if we make a higher low, even if we don't get down to my lower entries. So various entries there for you to watch if price gets to them. Excuse me, having a protein shake. Yeah, so Ether here, low time frame. So this one I did fumble this a little bit actually because of the front run here. So because I had a front run there, I kind of thought maybe it'll reject. There was a 4-hour supply in here, so I thought maybe it would reject in that area. So I had this entry that was just above all these wicks. And then because it was Sunday, I wasn't watching it properly, and you know, with hindsight, I probably should have deleted it. But you know, once it had hit multiple times right below the zone, rejected it, and then come back into demand, and then obviously it's gone straight back through. Like I say, I didn't reset this alert, but I just wanted to watch the area because that was where the previous alert was, and it's come into the hourly supply. And in fact, this is the 61 linear fib as well, the current high. I was using the log fibs for the 61s. Because they seem more reliable, which is why I had the arrows slightly lower. But in fact, this is the high from yesterday is at the 61 fib. But again, you can see here this channel, this up channel, again looking pretty corrective. So my preference would be to see this fall off, and again I've got that entry down near that CME gap. Should we retrace down there? Excuse me, cough starting again. So summarize Ether entries, basically everything aligned with the 61 fib, given there are so many untested zones through here. My preferred entries would be above 3k at the 61 fib of the entire down move if we get there. But there is a weekly before that, and there is a 4-day before that, not to mention the daily. So I've alerted the 4-day at a 61 fib, and then there's an hourly just a little bit higher than that in the 4-day. I don't necessarily consider those particularly high probability entries, but just look for reactions as the price gets there. If it gets there, excuse me. From the longs perspective, at the long side, obviously we're on 3 months demand here, so this could just be straight bullish from here if it wants to, but obviously the preference is normally to get a retest, retest either making a higher low, or in this case I wouldn't mind seeing it drop into this 3-week just below the previous low, or to the daily at the base of that 3-week, which is also coincides with the previous 2 months, which is again the 61 fib area. Failing that, then we've got a 3-month all the way down there, so that's a fairly long way to go, and I would like to think a 3-month zone like this is at least, you know, even if it's not going to make a higher high, is at least going to give a bigger retracement. One of the critical things also to be aware of on Ether is if it creates 3-month supply. So at this level, 2,600, if this creates 3-month supply, then I'm probably going to be fairly uber bearish on Ether. So this really has a week to get back up there, which it's more than capable of doing if it wants to, but it's going to need a big influx of capital to push it up 25%. And that would be a fairly big candle for the week, I think, compared to if you're looking at some of the other ones. I think we can drop 25% in a week, but it's less common for us to pump 25% in the week unless there's news. So we've already got a 2-month supply on Ether. It's already rejected off there, and now it's just competing with this 3-month demand. Okay, so that's those, and like I say, so like probably take the analysis on those with a little bit of a pinch of salt, because I haven't been updating them much lately, and I've been focused on alts. What have we got on? So the majors. Trying to remember what I had in the last updates. Okay, so EOS had a decent pump because it had a rebranding, so that did go through. I think I had an entry there on, I think, a 5-day supply, thinking this was one of the weaker ones, but then it had a rebranding. I had highlighted there was a risk of it going for these stops anyway, and it's kind of gone there most of the way up through that zone. But yeah, the rebranding just pumped it straight through that potential short entry, so at least it wouldn't have been, unless anyone limit ordered. I think I suggested not limit ordering here anyway, just because of the risk that these could be the bottoms. So EOS, I put in a new entry for a local short there on 12-hour supply, and it got a bit of a reaction, but obviously has now come up higher, still in the zone. So this is still a possible short area for me. And I highlighted the new possible long on daily and 3-day demand down, or 2-day and 3-day demand down there, if it wants to make a higher low. I've now also today alerted this trend line to see if it gets a breakdown of the trend line, then potentially you can short a retest, at least down to this zone, if not to lower. Failing that, I've still got that 5-day up there if it does want to break out. Litecoin has been a bit choppy and messy, not surprisingly again, because it's not really on any decent demand. So no new entries there, just waiting if it gets up into this 3-day, and again messy and choppy above, a 3-day, a 5-day, 2-week, etc. And then down here the 3-day inside this 2-monthly that I have always kind of wanted for a while. Ripple gave a nice reaction off this weekly, so I had that alert from previously on the weekly, has given a nice reaction off there, but has since made 2-day demand. So again, I just need to see if this is going to hold, if this is going to start making its way through demand. It's now coming off a 4-hour, so it's just chopping around on the low time frame. It's not really a significant sell-off from there, so this could make another move higher. Again, if it does, be looking at taking out this high. It could reject somewhere in this weekly zone, but it's just not clear enough, so I would just leave that for if it gets back up to the highs. And yeah, no new long entries on this, just because it's coming off weekly supply. And then finally BCH, which has just been kind of annoyingly messy, really. This did make a local 5-day, I think, or 4-day supply in the purple, but not a strong one. But because of that, I kind of thought, again, potentially aggressive short. So I put in an alert here on, what's that, daily or 2-day supply. And again, got the reaction off it yesterday, but has now come back a little bit higher. But that's possibly too aggressive anyway. Nothing new on that. I think I was already watching this 4-hour for potential long, and then various zones all the way up here if we look for other shorts, but again, look at the previous videos for updates on that. Sorry, for the previous zones on that. Moving on to the new majors. Finally getting a bit of a move off Dogecoin. So BNB was obviously one of the first to move. We had a really nice long entry off the low there. It's just hit my alert today finally, having consolidated onto here for ages for a possible short off the highs. This was messy up here, so just be conscious that I wasn't necessarily looking for a short immediately on this zone. There's a daily, then there's a 2-day, a 3-day, and a 3-week up here. So, and you know, kind of we could get the rejection anywhere in this area if it's going to reject. And bear in mind that this is also a very bullish, still one of the more bullish charts. While I think it looks a bit distributive, it is coming off annual demand at the lows, and that we did have that entry there for a reason. And then it's got this 2-month sitting on top of the monthly, so this could just take off if it wants to. So there's no more shorts beyond if we get past this, and then I'll just alert the all-time high to see if we get yet another swing fail, because it is liking to swing fail all-time high lately. So it makes a high, swing fails, it drops down, then comes up here, takes out the high, and then drops back down. So But yeah, just see what reaction we get in here, but this is not necessarily a high probability short area. At the weekend, I said, the ones I wanted to watch were Link, DOT, and NEAR. They were the ones I thought at the weekend were looking kind of nice, and they've had a bit of a move. Link is the weakest of them, actually. Ironically, of these, the majors, these four, BNB, Link, ADA, and DOGICOIN were the ones I thought would be most bullish, but in fact have ended up being the weaker ones. But maybe because they take a bit more effort to move, or needed more time consolidating, I don't know. Anyway, so Link, I was more bullish because we have this big 6-month demand, and it's got just choppy supply up here, so I think I did have an alert for this daily inside here, but because it's a bigger weekly, 3-week, etc. But there are various other supplies, so it's just not something I particularly want to trade. I haven't added any new entries, just waiting for what happens if we get to this daily or the 5-day supply above. And at the lows, we've already had the bounce. I don't want a long, so it's sort of similar to Bitcoin. It's now like, do you long in these areas? And I have on other alts, but the majors, because they have this supply so close by, I don't really want to long in these areas. So it's up to you how you play these. And again, similar to Bitcoin, they might all create these 3-day demands, in which case that maybe you will get aggressive entries just off the top of them tomorrow. But let's see how we close first. But yeah, nothing new on Link. DOGICOIN, again, like I was watching for ages, just this annual zone that it hit, and then it came down into a 5-day inside. It has got an untested 2-month inside the annual, but again, is this just going to run straight from here, or is it going to give us some consolidation and some time for entry, more like over here? But again, might create that 3-day demand. This maybe I'd be more inclined to look for a long in here on 3-day demand than some of the others, because at least this is a bit less choppy and has a bit more space. And certainly if it doesn't hit the supply, then it's more probable that this 3-day demand is going to hold at least to get up to this supply. Then I've got an alert for the weekly up here, and then there's another monthly higher if it does run higher. But again, if this does get a decent move coming off annual demand, then certainly don't blindly short these, because it could just go up. And then finally ADA, so ADA created a 2-weekly supply here this week, I think. Oh no, last week. It already had a weekly and it had already rejected off the weekly, and I think I commented on that in my last update. But then now has created a 2-weekly and is just hitting that now. What we also got? We also in a 2-day. Oh yeah, it's pretty poor, so I'm going to take that out. But yeah, so this is just chopping around sideways, but not something I want to long now. It's under this new 2-week supply. I wanted to take out that low into this 12-hour here, was the possibility for a local entry, but I think I've talked about that previously. And again, this is one of the potentially more bullish. These lows are on 6-month demand, so if this does want to run, this could run all the way up here. Monthly supply got wicked through, which makes me nervous, and the 2-week supply makes me nervous. So I'm a little bit indecisive on that. There's very bullish things on the downside, but then some of the bearish things that have been put in since the downside could react. My point being is that we could get some reaction in here to go deeper into this 6-month zone, because it doesn't seem to be overly common that we bounce off the tops of these zones and then make new highs. Like when I look back at a lot of other charts, quite often we come quite deep inside them, making everybody really bearish because they forget that we're in a big 6-month zone, and then have the big move. So we just want to see a little bit more play out on ADA and across the market. If the market gets strong, then these things are probably going to break through supply. So DOT, NEAR, and Atom and Sol. So as I said, that DOT and NEAR were the two that I kind of wanted. Atom had already had the move. So let's just start with Atom, actually, which has been the bane of my existence. So Atom was one of the ones I thought would be weaker. I did say, some of these could run off these swing fails of the lows. I think DOT, Atom, and NEAR are all the same. They had swing fails of the lows. They've got trend line stops up here. Let's do that. Move that trend line. I was wondering if it was going to pick up the trend line. So I said, if they do come up, I didn't particularly want to look for shorts, because I thought it would take out these stops. This also didn't give a re-entry. I did have a re-entry down here, but it didn't come back for it. Yeah, then I broke my own rule, because while I thought this was going to take out the stops, it then started messing around, and I thought, well, actually, maybe it'll go back lower before it goes for the stops. And it had a 12-hour supply here, so I put the possibility of a short in there, which gave a tiny reaction, but really, with hindsight, that was a little foolish. And yeah, you know, I'd just taken the stops off the lows here. I think I was thinking Sunday was going to give us a bigger drop to fill in the CME gap as well, or to fill it before CME opened, but then we didn't get that, so then this pushed back through. It's also potentially picked up this 6-month level again as support, which is kind of interesting. Anyway, and now it's sort of, so then yesterday I made 2-day demand, so I put an alert in here for the 2-day. It kind of bounced just above that, but again gave a decent move off there, but now it's struggling to break out. So I had another alert in here for today, like an aggressive on this new daily demand, and it's aggressive because it's actually not a strong demand. To see if we got a bounce off this zone to go up, but it's still obviously fumbling around in that area, and even though Bitcoin's going up, this is not being, it's come down into the 4-hour inside it, but it's not being overly strong. So as I say, you know, it's a weak demand, you know, it was unable to break this high, so these buyers at the moment are unable, haven't proven they can beat these sellers. So while you can get a bounce off here, it's not high probability. So I don't know if we're going to get some more messing around here, so much like we had here. I also have another long entry down on this 4-hour, 1-hour, 4-hour demand down the bottom here, should it decide to retrace a bit more of this. And then because we had the swing fail there, it is possible we get a test in here before taking the stops. And then again, shorts up there should we get there. Check my stream. Obviously getting that error again as normal. Had somebody come and fix my computer yesterday, and then basically as soon as he fixed it, I had exactly the same problem. Wonderful. I think it's about time for a new computer. Let me just check. I've had another error. I'm going to pause again for a moment there, because my stream's giving an error and the sound can go dodgy if that's the case. So it's worked before. If I've paused it and come back, sometimes it fixes itself. So just give me a moment and I will be right back. Okay, I am back. One sec. Oh. Unfortunately, the error hasn't fixed itself like it does normally, which makes me a little bit nervous. So I'm going to finish the majors quickly, and then I'll just record a video, I think, for the remainder. So, because, yeah, I've got nobody to check the stream at the moment. So, yeah, I don't want to have the same issues as I've had before with the sound not working properly, and at least I can check if I sign off. At least I can check the stream and what it sounds like. So yeah, just remaining on the final new majors. Yeah, so like I say, I had this aggressive entry on this daily demand on Atom, but it's a weak demand, so we'll just see what reaction we get there. I've got another more aggressive entry on the 4 hour down there in the hope that we're going to take out the stops properly and go up to here. But it is, you know, taking its time, and I'm not loving the pattern it's making, so I guess we'll see. Hopefully it won't come back down here first. NEAR and DOT are looking similar. So again, like I said previously, you know, we've got sort of these proper supply up here, then a new weekly, new 5 days, 4 days, and a 3-day that we're coming through at the moment. Possibly we'll create a 3-day demand, but the stops below make me a little bit nervous. I have put a new entry or a new alert on this daily 2-day, 3-day demand down here if we get a drop back into that zone, at least taking the first set of stops. So keep an eye on that. And DOT, basically the same. Excuse me. Again, weekly, 5-day, 4-day supply, etc. in there. Possibility of a new 3-day here, but has left trend line stops. So I might look at an aggressive long on the 3-day demand if that comes in there later today. But also failing that, you know, look at taking out the stops. This is lower than the relatively to the near option. So again, like it's possible, like either this won't hit on DOT and near will work, or it's possible if because they're likely to do very similar. You can see they look very, very similar, but or the near will fail and DOT will hit. So we'll see what happens. And then finally SOL. SOL again could create the 3-day at this level. It's also an old 2-monthly level. But again, back up in supply, so I'm not sure if this is going to get a push. It does have a monthly supply up here, so that's kind of where I've got the short alert still at the moment. But again, I haven't added any new entries on this. If it gets a drop a bit lower, then I'd be looking down here, but there's nothing I really want to look at on that at the moment. Again, it's just bounced off these new dailies that it's made. So yeah, we're just looking for the reactions on the supply from most alts, really. Oh, okay, the stream's now fixed itself, so I will continue. Not sure what that blip was, but hopefully it hasn't wrecked my sound. But yeah, I just want to, don't know if I need the sound to catch up with me or something. Trying to think what's best to do. Maybe have another brief break before going on to the alts, and then at least maybe the sound will reset if there's any issue with it. Yeah, I might have a momentary break again. Sorry about this. I think I'm just going to continue and pray it's okay, really. Let's have a quick look at what Bitcoin's doing before I move on. This is Ether. Bitcoin has come up into that upper zone. So, might just get a rejection here. Taken out 15-minute supply there and just up. So possibly it's going to get a lower high here, so we shall see. But as I say, you know, this for me is a short bias area. It's not a long bias area, so then we just need to look at reactions lower on this if it drops down. Okay, so alts. So I've had so many alerts come through again, and like I say, there've been some really nice ones. I posted this in the channel I had yesterday. I've been looking a lot at the new MEXC alts, and they're not always just MEXC, but MEXC has the most new ones. And then yeah, so form here, you know, just giving aggressive entries on hourly or 2 hourly demand down here, retest there, then it made a daily, and then I've got the retest at the top of the daily, then made an 8 hour and had a really nice move up. Now we've swing failed this high, so I thought it was worth putting an entry for a possible short in here. So I had it, you know, the alert when it was for either 4 hour or this 2 hour inside it, so you can keep an eye on that to see either, you know, if you're not in already, if this comes up for another test up here, or just short it now with your stop above the high. I think it's a viable short. The reason I say that as well is, let me show you BR. I mean, it's a completely different structure, but BR was one of the other new ones I was looking at. So this is a very different structure, but you can see it got this swing fail up here as well. This in this case didn't give the retest, sadly, and has now just fallen off a cliff. So I was looking at, you know, so I had a long entry in here. You know, I actually just called this in the group. I said it's just hit 8 hour demand. It was literally on the first day. And I know one of the group at least got this first bounce off it. Then it created this triangle. I had this very nice breakout. I think I might have commented that, but didn't actually call a new entry, or if I did, I've deleted the cross. Then I said, oh, you know, that I had an alert here for yesterday, but when it hit, I said there is a risk that we're going to do the ripple pattern, which I've now referred to as the ripple pattern. You've seen me draw this many times, where we have a triangle, we go up, we take out the high, and then we just distribute straight through the triangle. So doesn't surprise me it's done that. Sadly didn't give the retest, so certainly I'll look at this for a retest. This is probably going to make a daily supply today in there. So certainly I'll look for shorts on the retest of this daily supply, because these new coins, like I look back at some of the charts actually where I've got these trades right at the beginning, and now, you know, we've ended up with, let me get my brush, you know, that I can see I've got little green crosses in here, but then now a year later, this is what happened. So it's good to kind of try and get both directions. I've learnt my lesson on that anyway. You know, I think it's still nice to get, you know, it's risk to reward, not percentage, but it's certainly still nice to get longs. You know, this is a potentially, if you took that trade, where's my tool? Which one is it? That one? I think that one. No, obviously I was going to get it. Oh no, that was the right way around. You know, if you had entered here, even with a, get down to the lower time frame. Oh, I don't know what happened there. So if you had entered it, you know, at that 8 hour that I said there, you know, either with your stop just below those lows, or even with your stop a bit more conservatively lower, and you'd held to at least take out this high, you know, that's still a 3 to 4 hour trade. So, you know, having said that, you know, if it does give a short entry either here, or if it confirms this daily here and you get a short entry, you know, that's something that you can potentially hold for an extremely high R trade. So, you know, if you enter here with your stop above the high, you know, and we basically fall 95%, I mean, that's, let's have a look at what 95% would be. Well, 90%, because we do commonly fall 90%. You'd have to hold a while, but oh, it's only a 2.3 hour trade, is what comes with looking at the log chart. So you'd want to get it a bit more tightly than that, but then you can get a 7 hour trade, for example. So you can get a significant drop and potentially multiple re-entries off these types of setups. So that's pretty nice to look at. The other one that shows exactly the same format, and I made exactly the same comment in the group, I think unfortunately also hasn't given a short. I can't remember if I entered one or not. This was very similar here on Jelly. I'd had the alert for a short on that daily anyway, and then for a long re-entry here. But again, made that triangle not quite as clean as BR, triangle, take it out, and again I had the alert here from previously, like, you know, you want that test to be quick, but once it's done this distribution, it's gonna, and so I put a comment in the channel yesterday as that alert hit, just saying this is going to be a high risk or not a good entry, because we swing failed the high. There's a fair chance we'll take out the trend line stops, which again is exactly what's happened. May swing fail this low here, but again my preference would be for lower. This in fact has made I think it's going to make a 2-day supply. Yeah, I'm slightly more skeptical of this also. So this has got a weekly demand and a 5-day demand. So again, don't know if I want to second guess this is going to go lower or fall significantly. It's already had a decent fall from the high that it started with. So again, some of these which fall straight away can go back up. So more commonly, like unlike BR and Form, which entered in a sort of a slightly reversing, more bullish market. This obviously entered when this obviously opened when we were a lot more bearish, so it's come down straight away. So this, you know, is very possible it goes up to take out the highs similar to the other two just later, and then gets the bigger drop. So I don't want to second guess shorting this for it to go significantly lower now, particularly not with the weekly demand in here. Right, let me go back to put Form back on the chart. The broccolis have been quite bullish this week. I'm not really. I think because a new one got released. It's not actually on this list, but we had broccoli, the original, strong. Unfortunately, it has missed my 3-day entry. So again, this was one, you know, I was looking for a 3-day bounce on the 3-day. You can see I've made a comment that it could go for the stops. The only thing with these, and again, much like how I just said on NEAR and DOT, you know, with those stops, when you have stops running above an untested demand, then it's possible this demand's going to fail. So that's what I put in the comment there. Could take stops into the untested daily below, but in this case, it's front run me anyway, so it's irrelevant. And I think it's made a new daily demand in there. But yeah, the broccolis have been strong. But then similar to what I said on JELLYJELLY, you know, this could just be the initial drop, retracement, and then we're going to get a significant drop from here. So certainly worth looking for shorts on that. Broccoli lift 3 was similar, so I had an alert go for a short here, but I slightly front ran it, and now it's today had an alert go for a long here. But the same issue as with broccoli, that actually this did take stops already, but in this case it has left an untested 4-hour below. But with these new coins, I mean, you're really basically guessing, because, you know, is this now in a downtrend? And I'm trying to long demand in a downtrend. You know, it has just below my area, my entry there, but this is a 5-day supply. Preferably you want it to go to the weekly, but it doesn't have to. But that could just be, okay, now we've retraced, you know, we're probably in the golden fib area there, it's hit a zone, and then it's just going to continue. But I've just got to set alerts for both directions and see, you know, because it depends a lot what the market's doing. You know, this, even if this doesn't want to go all the way up here, it could still give a scalp through here and some consolidation if the market's not ready to fall. And then broccoli 2 was I was watching this, and this is sort of the same in reverse. You know, we've got a weekly supply here, but it's left stops there and an untested zone above. So this is kind of interesting. I've drawn in the daily demand already, but I might look, if this confirms this daily demand, still high risk because it's in a 12-hour supply here, and then obviously has a 5-day and a weekly right above. But this could give a possible long entry if it's ready to reverse for a move up there. But again, just like no history to know. But it's kind of fun trading the new coins, and they get a real mix. Try and run through some of the other new ones actually. Let's see what we've got. DOGINME, I think, was one of them. It's new to futures, but this in fact isn't new particularly. It's got history on this chart, which is MEXC, but I think also has history from further back from CoinX and the ETHBTC chart. So because I've got the all-time highs drawn in there. So this was one, you know, I was looking for a long there, but it hasn't come back to test it, but I did look for shorts. So this here, I said I was looking for the trend line break, so that alert went there. Then we got a short re-entry on this 12-hour supply yesterday, but it's still consolidating, so I'm unsure what this is going to do. Again, made trend line stops again, so we need to see a little bit more here if it's going to make a lower high or not. As I said, it's taken out the Ether base high, but it does have a higher high on CoinX, which I've alerted up there. You can see for a possible short if it does decide to make an additional move. DRB was another really nice one that gave Nice short off the high, nice retest entry there. You know, this was obviously too aggressive. Nice short off the high, nice re-entry there. I've set another alert. You know, again, it's unclear as to whether this is consolidating for another up move. You know, when you're looking at these corrections, you're looking at, you know, okay, is this still bullish? And this is just going to correct here and go up. Is this going to make a bigger triangle correction? You know, it coming down into here, bounce, bounce up. Or is that it? You know, is that the top? And we make a zigzag, at least a zigzag correction, and or we go into a downtrend from there. So, you know, for me, like, at least we're trying to get the good entries, and then you just need to see the reactions on the zone. So I have got an alert in here for the 4-hour demand and the untested 8 hours below it, but they're not high probability zones. What else? Let's look at Epic. I haven't looked at that for a while. So yeah, another example of something. So this, we got a long entry there, which did get a move up, but didn't get much higher, and then failed to hold the retest here before dropping lower, and is now in this daily supply, and is still struggling and thinking about it, but it looks like it's probably going to drop lower now finally. What else do we got? How do we have as far as the new stuff goes? Maybe if I go to this list, I can see the new stuff better. Not that list, wrong list. PUMPAI, I think I hadn't had any entries on this yet because I was a bit unsure. I think it was hitting this weekly maybe when I first looked at it. This could be interesting for a long entry coming into here now. I think again though I was indecisive because of the fact it's coming off weekly supply. So when you look at things, you know, you're looking at the higher time frame, it's very clearly in a downtrend, very clearly had a retest of weekly supply. So we don't necessarily expect this daily demand to hold. Whether it will give a scalp, you know, like this could still bounce here. You know, if it's reversing, it can bounce and take out the high. So that's option one. If it's not reversing and it's going to play out this weekly demand, then we expect it to take out the low. That's higher probability. Is it going to give a scalp bounce in between, you know, even if like this? Possible. So again, you can look for longs there if you want to. So I haven't had alerts on that yet. Nil, I didn't put alerts on because it's just a mess. I was thinking about this 3-day, but it's just a horrible chart. DLC isn't a new one. I think maybe it's new to futures, or I just discovered it, but it's also quite wicky and nasty. SLING, we got a short in, I believe. So I had a nice short on the retest of this 8 hour up there. Might have been too quick to get though. MUBARAKAH. No, nothing new on that really. I didn't want to show all of these, but yeah, I wanted to show really the ones that I'd had entries on that had worked or not worked, so you can see, and not worked as well in the interest of transparency. So red, yeah, I had an alert here on this daily demand, but it's taking its sweet time, and not dissimilar to the structure I just showed on, what was it, PUMPAI, you know, that it's in a downtrend, it's retested, you know, is this now just downtrend, you know, or is this going to give us at least a scalp in between? Or is it reversing? You know, we don't have enough history to really comment either way, so it's just trading zones as and when they are formed. SIREN was another one that we had a nice swing fail off the high, so again, that's why I always alert these highs, you know, even if they're not really significant highs and they're just from when price started. Again, I alerted that. And then what I'm looking for is the retest. So we had a 4 hour and an 8 hour supply, or 8 or 12, no, 8 hour that I alerted that would have hit yesterday. It's taken a few hours to do it, but now we're getting the bigger drop off that. So alert these all-time highs for yourself, and then look for if we make, like, ideally you want 4 hour above. But these are very high probability trades. Like if you get that swing failure, once it plays out and you get the retest, that's yeah, great trades. MUBARAK. So this is one that I biased to the short. It was a bit too aggressive and has now run through, but there was, you can see there was a daily supply in here. In fact, I think it was a 12 hour when I called it. Yeah, it was a 12 hour supply here, so I was hoping for the immediate reaction and a drop. But obviously didn't get that, and then it came through and broke it. So obviously it did give a bit of a scalp there, and there's certainly plenty of time to get a break even. And it's obviously then come through it. It's flipped the daily to demand. So then yesterday I flipped my bias and put in the long entry. So again, like if it does flip an area you're looking for a short, then you look for a long, and vice versa. It flips an area you're looking for a long, then you look for a short from the same level. And again, this is similar to all the others. I've set an alert for the all-time high if it comes up there. What else? DRB I showed already, I think. Layers suddenly got some strength. So this one, I was looking at this yesterday, the bane of my existence. So really nice short here, even a nice short on the retest. But it had come down into this 5-day demand. I was hoping that we would get this weekly. I've had this alert set since back here, but it hasn't given it and has now pushed up again. I deleted that level earlier. Anyway, this may create, I think, a 4-day demand today in that pink level. So we need to see, and this is stronger with a lot more demand than a lot of the other ones I've shown. It's got a bit more history. But again, you can look for the swing fail here and see what reaction we get at that high, and if it's going to give a short. And maybe finally TST. So TST is again something I was trying to aggressively long in the hope that we get up to this weekly supply, but again just rejected off this lower 5-day. So again, now I've just flipped back to short. I decided it was more bearish. So, did give a short, gave a long, came back up, gave a long. I think while this doesn't look great, I think this alert actually came in here and did give it a move up there, but I can't recall, so I maybe won't confirm that for sure. And then obviously came back through the level and then came in for the short yesterday. So just so these, get familiar with the charts and then you can just trade them backwards and forwards. Anyway, that is, so some of the alerts we've had today, I guess I'll cover those. I just want to put this, no, that's fine. So, Torn I had this is a bit of a risky one, and I think I said it in the alert, but it is in monthly supply, so obviously I had the alert there. I think it was for like maybe the weekly inside the monthly. It's come up quite high in it, hasn't given me the retest I wanted here, and it's now back down in 3-day demand. So the alert's just gone for a long on 3-day demand, but be conscious with this so that it is in monthly supply. It's not the nicest monthly supply, and it's not the nicest chart, so I don't really know what this is going to do. Maybe it'll come down and hold around here for support. Could come down a bit deeper, could hold that weekly. But yeah, I need to have a think through on this one a bit later. But yeah, I had the aggressive long entry on 3-day demand here, and a possible short if we get back up into daily supply up there. BEAMX has just hit the weekly zone. So again, it came off a daily demand at very close to all-time low. It's just hit a weekly zone. It's got a 2-month in there. It may end up with a 3-month just above that, but I've alerted the 2-month. I think this is one of a little bit, it could run quite a lot higher in this supply if it wants to. So I'll say this, like when I go through the watch list, and I've said it previously as well, that these 2-month demands are large. Some of them have something at the entry. A lot of them have this 2-day supply at the level. So at least that gives you, if you do want to enter based on the 2-day, then at least you can enter and put your stop above the 2-day rather than having to have the stop all the way at the top of the 2-month. But yeah, so here anyway, BEAMX, see whether we get that reaction initially off this weekly zone. Render. So we've had a long entry off weekly demand, now coming up into weekly supply. It does have a 2-month again, just slightly above that. I think I was slightly more aggressive. I put 1 week supply and 2 months at the top, but it's in annual demand, but would like it to go for 3 months inside a lower ideally. So this is in a bigger annual demand. So you can see the massive grey zone. But again, is it ready to reverse, or are we getting another drop and a proper consolidation before the move up? That's kind of what I would like. Much the same as here, you get the initial bounce, you get the first rejection off the immediate supply, then you get some consolidation, in this case a higher low before a move up. And similar here, are we going to get a rejection here, at least some consolidation here, or a lower low into the next zone before the next move up to the higher zones? So that's render. NAVX hit yesterday and took a day or so to get there, but again, monthly supply hit the 2 week, 3 week inside it. So this is going to create a 4-day demand. So these are where it's going to become interesting, because this is going to create a 4-day demand here today. Or is that 2-day? Might just be on the wrong time frame. Okay, no, the 4 days down lower. Through the wrong line on it. So the 4 days there. 3 days, so it's going to create a 3-day here. Put that box back again. So, you know, what are we getting? So what we have here is a monthly supply, 2 week and 3 weeks. So on the weekly chart, you know, we have the downtrend, we have a retest. From a monthly perspective, you know, if we expect this monthly to play out, then we expect a lower low. That doesn't mean it has to play out off the bottom here. So, like, what are the competing time frames? And that's what I need to think through on a lot of these charts that hide that. So again, this is 3 week supply, could well propel it down for a lower low, but we're coming from a 3 week demand. So I need to think through a lot of these. So I mean, really, this is just a sideways range. But mainly I need to consider, you know, do I think this monthly or weekly is going to be strong enough to break this new demand there? As to whether I should put a long entry, possible long entry here to go higher in the zone, even if it then comes back down and plays out the 2 month later. And a lot of that just depends on what the rest of the market's doing. So I guess we'll see. But anyway, this, like I say, the alert hit yesterday because it was a bit early off the I don't know, the alert's higher there. Don't know what I actually had on this alert. Guess it was 1 week to 3 week supply. So maybe there was a 1 week supply a little bit lower. No, not really. Maybe I just had the alert in a little bit early. Anyway, it is now giving a reaction. And it's got to get back through this demand, so I guess we'll see on that if it's going to have any continuation. DF, I think I threw in late last night. This was a bit of a risk one because it came down so hard and it was coming back up quite hard, so I kind of thought, okay, well, there's a 1 day and 3 day supply in here, so it's worth looking for a bit of a retracement off that if it wants to, but it's just a messy, nasty chart, so it's not necessarily the highest probability change, the highest probability trade. XMR was of interest, and this is still kind of bullish. But again, it's another one with a lot of stops below here. It is in 3 month supply here. It could still, you know, the structure is still such that it can run higher up to the, you know, at least the next monthly inside or higher. It has a 6 month demand here. It's got some wicks into it, but it actually hasn't tested it since it's been confirmed because these are from last year. So it confirmed this by closing above here at the end of December. So I've got an alert here for 3 month demand. Actually should say 6 month demand on that as well now, I guess. If we get a retest down there. But yeah, it's just looking, you know, it's taking its time, it's consolidating through here. So there was a clean 5 day supply in there. So I thought, well, that's worth watching for a possible early short, even just to take out these stops. And again, that really depends on whether Bitcoin's going to support the drop. But that's kind of, it's very slow grind up here. And we have had these slow grinds, I guess, here, which can end up in a pop candle before a drop. So it could still run up into there, but I thought it was worth like watching for a possible early short on this. Well, not necessarily early, you know, again, it does actually happen with, you know, if I ignore some of the wicks, we do have, again, a bit of that triangle structure where it's gone up and it's got the distribution pattern and it's grinding up here. So maybe it's still going to hold and it's not quite ready to take out those stops. Maybe it will do another one. You know, making a larger channel first. But these are all the things I'm thinking through anyway. When I'm looking at it, sometimes I just throw in the zones and then I think about them more as and when they hit. Let's put broccoli back on this, I think. And then, yeah, like I say, the form, I think, was the last one, most recent one. But yeah, these are some of the new ones. Oh, what's BMT? See what BMT is doing. Okay. Another bit of a risk one, so I think I had an aggressive, long entry here, and I think I remember saying that that was a risky, aggressive one, and that really didn't get anywhere. I was hoping at that point, I think at least we'd get a bounce up to get another short in, but it didn't give that. And it's now down on 8-hour demand, so we just need to see. I think it looks like it's going to make a daily supply in there today. Yeah, so I'm not sure I love that. I'd probably prefer an entry on this down here now. Let's throw that in. But you can see if this gets some sort of a bounce on that 12-hour for a scalp maybe. On demand. So see if we get a move down into there for longs, and then yeah, possible shorts. I would look for shorts higher on this, but there is potentially going to make a daily supply in there anyway. And BERA, kind of looking like it wants to push still. Did make a 3-day supply, so this would give a couple of nice long entries. Then I think I had an aggressive short thinking maybe it could fall from there, but then it didn't. Run higher, and then yeah, I don't know. This actually doesn't look dissimilar to form, I think, although it's probably a bit higher time frame again. But this is interesting. If this daily doesn't reject, and it also does actually have equal highs, so with hindsight that possibly wasn't the best. The best looking for a short here. It's got like triple equal highs there that it's likely to go for. So I might actually alert that for possible swing failure. Equal highs. So I think there's like a 10-minute and 15-minute supplies a little bit higher, but then it's got these equal highs. So you can watch here, if this does run higher and gets a swing failure over those levels, then maybe it will give one of the breakdowns that we've seen on some of the other charts, or maybe this daily supply will play out. So give it a bit more time. Anyway, that's some of the alerts that we've had recently, or some of the ones we got today. Like I say, we've had some really, really nice ones come in. And yeah, so the probabilities of the alerts just vary. It depends a lot on what the market's doing, how I've set them, how far behind I am, or up to date I am in updating them. And then yeah, that's why I give some of the commentary as they come in, when I have time to, saying what I would enter, what I wouldn't enter, and why. And also you always have to look and see what structures changed. So like for example on this one, which may or may not have been the highest probability anyway, I think it was a daily supply. A daily, so like yeah, once you see that, if you can see firstly that it's held structure, so it's like, I would set this alert in the hope this is going to make some sort of a bigger drop before retesting. So if it does then pick up and then it makes a new daily demand in here, then you may think, well, I'm not going to take that, because that would be your target, would have to be on daily demand, because it's in sort of a messy scenario. But I can't update all of those all the time. It depends when I put that. So I probably put that in when this, I think I did put that in when this red candle closed, and then it just went back up since then. So similarly, this alert I would have put in a long time ago. And then yeah, like we have to see what the structure is when it hits. You know, maybe it's made a weekly demand immediately below. I haven't even checked that, to be honest. No, it hasn't. But you need to be conscious of what demand, what supply has been made in the interim. So now I've set an alert for a new 3-day demand on a long there. It's still in 3-day supply, but it's obviously had a decent move up. So if it does get a retest here, could get some continuation. Yeah, anyway, I digress. We're here to do the V to Z on the watch list. Sorry, not V to Z, V to X. So there are quite a few actually. So I'm going to be speedy, but I think some of these, you know, like I'll go into more detail where we've got the like challenges and structure and the things I'm looking at, because like I say, I'm right now just trading quite tightly in both directions, just to see what reactions we get, and I make judgments also like as and when things either hold or break. I then make judgments as to whether I think the market's more bullish. So you know, like at the moment where everything's in supply, so this, you know, is come up high in this weekly supply, but it is still in a weekly supply. for example. Or is that a 2 weekly supply even, a 3 week? No, okay, so it didn't make a 2 week supply, still in a weekly, not a good weekly, but it still is in a weekly. But if I see this break, then not only can I just potentially go for longs up to the next supply, but also it might start telling me that the market's getting stronger. So in this case, you know, the weekly hasn't broken, but it's made a new 3 day. So I have set an alert on 2 day and possible 3 day. It is actually now a 3 day demand. So it's worth looking for longs. So while we get a short off 2 day supply up there, it's worth looking for longs if it hits this 2-3 day demand in here. Because then again, something like this has space, you know, it's already hit this zone once, could still reject there again, could still have made a lower high, but it's possible now this has got enough support, it's had a bit of consolidation, a lot more consolidation through here, stop hunt of the lows, it is possible it can run up to the next supply. Anyway, let me light a cigarette quickly. I don't really have any water in here. Oh no, I do. Excuse me. I was thinking I need some water. Okay, so VANA is our first starting point. I've just given a bit of commentary about that, but yeah, looking for longs on 2-3 day demand if it gets there, and shorts up here on 5 day / 3 week supply if we're going to get another up move. Definitely worth looking for longs on this while it's not high probability as yet. These are early possible entries, assuming Bitcoin doesn't come down in flames and break everything back down again. You know, it is early, we are still in a downtrend, but if we are reversing, this at least has quite a lot of space to supplies above. It's got some chop and dailies and through here, which does make it a little bit challenging because it could reject any of them, but also on the plus side, it could just run through all this to the next obvious zone, which it would be the 5 day or the 3 week up there. And again, like I say, I've said on some of the majors, just be conscious that a lot of these have lower zones, like while I may in some cases alert aggressively, like in this case it's got a big up move from there, so it doesn't necessarily have to bounce off the top of this 3 day, 2 day, it could come deeper inside, but also some of these have untested zones near the lows, so it's possible we run deeper. And let me just look at the others again quickly. Not others dominance, just others on the lower time frame, just to see. So yeah, as I've said, like this is what we're looking at on most alts, that we have this big drop. We've got weekly supply, we've got 5 day supply, we've made 1 day, 2 day demand, and we're still holding, and it's looking like things are going to make 3 day demand today, which could give another push, but we're still in quite a choppy area. And we are still in a bigger downtrend. Decent demand, sure, so we're looking for reversals, but you know, it's still fairly early days, and that you're taking risk entries in order to get in pretty early, and because it's not overly clear you know, where shorts might come in. You know, this has already been tested up here, so this is the first, or now it tested just before, and now the second test on this zone, so we are still in this down, local down. This could still continue. But the monthly at the base means it's worth looking for possibility of a bigger move up now. So yeah, that kind of support's similar to what I've said here. So that's VANA, VANRY. Let's get back up to the higher time frame. That's a particularly ugly chart. So it's going to create a 2-month supply up here, so I haven't actually alerted. In some cases I completely ran out of alerts as well, so I haven't set all of them. Like, I put the crosses in, but I haven't set all of them because I have none left, and it's really annoying when you run out of alerts. And when the next Black Friday comes, I will have to upgrade my subscription because I use all 800 alerts, and I think the next level has 1200 but is double the price, and I want a 70% discount per Black Friday, but that's unfortunately not for 9 months. Anyway, this has got a weekly supply. Like, some of these I'm putting slightly more aggressive. I'm not sure why I didn't with this. So ones where we've got situations like this, where apparently I don't know if that really is the start of VANRY or if there's more history back here, but excuse me. This weekly has already been tested, but we could still get an early rejection on this 5-day here. I think I was in two minds when I was doing these charts as to, you know, how much of a retracement we can get. Like, are we at the point, like with something like this, I don't know, because I'm not even on any demand, but for those that are on decent demand, so like for charts, for example, that are around here in this demand, you know, this, then we're now due a significant up move. So it's hard to know, you know, and there's no confirmation at this point for most things as to whether this is just going to continue, or, you know, i.e. we're just going to get another bounce here and another rejection, or whether we are ready for one of these. There's certainly some signs that we are ready for one of those, but I just also don't know if we're going to get it market wide, or are we just going to get it for the things that are on demand like this. Turn my tool off, but yeah, are we only going to get it for things on demands like this, where things like this, which have broken potentially major support, are just going to continue dying to hell. So yeah, something like this potentially could look for shorts. Okay, it hasn't actually tested the weekly, it's tested the 5-day. This is the other challenge, it's that's a weekly, but this is the 5-day chart and it's tested it on the 5-day. So again, it's hard to know. What I will do, I think, on this is set an alert for this, but possibly, and the other thing I'm doing is setting alerts to potentially then look for longs. So if this then hits that 5-day supply, and if at that point in time it's created a 3-day demand, then I may kind of go, okay, we've rejected supply, now's the time to look for longs, depending on the strength of the rejection. In fact, I just really don't like this on the low time frame, so I'm not going to put... so this is my challenge. You can see the chop we've got on this. So the weekly, the blue, isn't tested, but on the 5-day and the daily it has been tested. And there's a 2-day here that hasn't been tested, and a 5-day and then a daily. So I mean, this again could get a rejection here. It's had a decent drop off from that level. I think what the hell, I'll alert that and just see. 2-day. Because I do want to mix. I don't want to have all my entries at 2-month supplies that are all the way up here that we're never going to hit. So that's the other thing. I feel like I'm potentially wasting alerts by putting them all the way up there. So I have moved quite a lot of them down to being more aggressive. But like I say, we just need to see these zones as and when they get tested. Let me have another look at this quickly. Obviously, I'm definitely being slower than I wanted to be now. And you know, maybe that entry isn't going to be ideal. Like if we do make a 3-day demand, maybe that's going to be strong enough to just propel us straight through all this mess up here. You can see that it has had quite a lot of consolidation now. So you can see how all the zones are just being tested and retested. Now it's got a daily demand in here. But yeah, it's hard to know what's going to take off, but at least the ones you should pick that you think are going to take off are the ones that should be on a bigger monthly demand to the left, whereas something like this isn't. Anyway, I'll see what happens when that hits. VELODROME, go back up to my higher time frame. So this is a monthly demand, its third hit, it's come quite a lot deeper. It's going to have a 3-month supply. Looks like it's got a 6-month there as well. This is in fact in 6-month demand. So I think that's why I've been more conservative on the short on this. So this does have a 2-monthly supply there. It potentially is going to have a 3-month supply above, but is in a larger 6-month demand and in a monthly inside it. So something I would be slightly more conservative on the short. So while it's got the same 5-day and then weekly that we saw on VANA, or 4-day perhaps. So you can see it's sort of starting to wick off this 4-day, can still drop from here if it wants, but because it's in a monthly demand and then a 6-monthly demand, I'm less inclined to kind of go, right, let's be aggressive and short this like right at it could be the bottom. This is something that possibly is worth looking for longs down here if it does get a test. Yeah, I might set that alert down there just in case. Comes back down there. So again, you can see even from these first few charts that I'm putting in, the kind of the point of indecision we're potentially in. That it, yeah, very much still a downtrend, but are we at now a bottom that's going to get a significant up move and then ideally some consolidation before maybe another up move, or are we just still continuing this downtrend? I hope this is not going to start doing that reloading of the chart thing it likes to do. VELO, one of the much more bullish charts, one of very few much more bullish charts, I have to say. But it's messy. I think I looked at this for quite a while and I was just like, this is such a mess, I don't like it. See, it's got a 3-month, okay, so yeah, it's got a, should probably draw that in, it's got a big 3-month demand down here. And then a monthly inside it that's miles away. So this 3-month you can see has been hit 3 times already. Two on the level and one just above. So really I would have expected after those hits for this to kind of have a significant move up, and it hasn't got that much further than the high that created the 3-monthly. So that's not great, and that can point to potentially coming lower inside the 3-monthly looking for better demand. So my possible preferred entry would be on a test taking out those lows. Having said that, again, in the interest of being slightly more aggressive, I think there is a 3-day demand here untested, so I thought I'd put a more aggressive entry in there. And it may or may not get there. It has taken out this low or made equal lows. So again, is this going to reverse now and just go up and take out all these stops, etc.? So if this does run, it's got a decent move to run. This is one of the more bullish charts, so this is something you can look for longs now if you want to. Or on the 3-day there if it drops inside it, or on the 3-week below, again, if we do get more drop. But I would try and look for entries on this if you can, because it is more bullish. It is potentially, on a higher low / at least a swing fail of the higher low, and has all this chop that it could just run straight through. Locally, it's still got daily and 2-day supply, so don't be buying that right now. But potentially, if you want to look for scalp entries or tighter entries, you could potentially look for an entry on this 12-hour here if it's given. That, for some reason I had this giant circle drawn and I left it there. I don't know why I left it there, in fact, but obviously I was expecting price to come back there at some point. Whether I drew it last week or whether I drew it when it was up here, who knows. But if I drew that, probably because I charted it for somebody else at some stage, but if I did draw that to somebody, there you go, I obviously achieved whatever target I was hoping for. And again, this is one that I just struggle with this chart as well. Like, I don't know. Oh, ALON. ALON is one of my most bullish charts that I like, so keep an eye on that. This is a kind of an aggressive alert, so I'm not sure. And yeah, I don't know what Bitcoin's doing right now, but so yeah, that is a challenge for me, because I guess we've had this up move, we've had this correction, but it's not like we've just suddenly had a strong move off this zone. What we're having here is a very corrective up move, and I guess I'm just uncertain if we're in an environment where this is a broadening wedge and we're just going to get something like that from here, or whether this is a bigger picture accumulation. Which is now higher low, higher low, higher low, and I guess maybe I haven't had enough experience with long-term or higher time frame charts to know what's more common from this, and I'm not an Elliott waver. But again, we are at support, so I can't be bearish at support, while my preference would be for this to drop, for that broadening wedge to play out and to drop back into 3-month demand, or I swear I've deleted that multiple times, or back onto this weekly inside, or even on this 2-week taking out that low. But yeah, I can't be looking for shorts on this right now anyway. So, but I think I ended up with just not putting anything. I don't want to be too aggressive on this because it's on a monthly demand. So yeah, that's the other thing, I guess, from a monthly perspective. While I said these monthly demands on most of these coins a week, this is one of the stronger ones because at least it did significantly take out this high, although it did close on a giant swing failure. In many charts we've seen this monthly zone in the sort of similar structure break. So again, that makes me slightly wary. Got weekly supply there and 5-day in there, so I don't want to long this right into supply. There's just not enough space for me in here. I want to see that tested, come back down, hold, retest, like etc. Similar to here. You know, and if it takes off without me and just goes straight through it, you know, more like that, then so be it. If it gets back up here, there's a monthly supply, so I would certainly look for shorts to counter the monthly demand if it does get back up there. You can look for longs if you want to. I certainly wouldn't be shorting this right now, but I'm just not confident enough for longs either. VIB, again, not a giant sideways range, is approaching support, so it's potential for long entries, but not a chart I particularly like, and is right under, I'm now rejecting weekly supply. So again, not something, unless, you know, if you see a weekly close above here that flips this to demand, then great, go for longs. We are at close to range lows, but at the moment this is not a buy for me. And then I put an alert up here, or I will put an alert if we get a move up here for 3-month supply, which is likely to confirm unless this does an epic candle in the next week. But again, just been slightly more conservative on this, purely again because of this giant range. So if it does hold here, then there is a fair chance it's going to move at least, or maybe to the top of the range, but at least significantly higher in the range, similar to this, before potentially retesting. A bit more water. God, this room's already 2 hours. VIC, I had an alert for weekly demand here, but obviously this is just, again, tenuous as to whether it's going to hold or not. Has made a 2-month supply immediately above and has rejected that. So my bias on this remains down, but there wasn't an entry I particularly wanted, I don't think, which is why I haven't put one in there. So yeah, it's come off this weekly, come back down deeper in the weekly, rejected 2-month supply, but yeah, so this is not for me a long entry. If it makes a 2-week supply in here, then you can potentially look for short retests here, but I would expect to see this break lower. If it flips this 2-month, then great, and my bias can change. We are at support, don't want to short it without decent supply to short off. But also I'm certainly not going to long this with a 2-month supply immediately above. VIDT, so this potentially has taken out the lows, and I did again put an entry or an alert for a possible retest, straight back up into weekly supply here, and has come reasonably hard off that. So I would like to see a retest on this, and then maybe that's a long based on a swing fail of range lows, and then it's going to have 3-month supply in here, so that's potential for a short. Again, just something to be conscious of with these charts that have this possible swing fail of a range low, in that, you know, if it takes out this low, then it can potentially take out this high, the high of the range. So this may just run straight back through, you know, that if it's a swing fail of this, then this is still 3-month supply, but it's not necessarily strong supply. So I have alerted it, and 4 or 5 day immediately inside it. So we just need to see as and when, if that hits. And then similarly, you know, if this long entry, if we do get a long on this 3-day demand down here, then could give a decent move, you know, potentially you can hold for higher. If it starts breaking supply, then great, you know, this whole thing can move into an uptrend. But bear in mind, this is a 3-year chart, and it could take significant time to do that. But yeah, that's certainly a long entry I would keep an eye on. Vine. This was something I had an aggressive short on yesterday. So it is an example of one of the aggressive shorts that I put, that this has, it's got a weekly supply up here, which was already tested on the next candle. And then it's made a 4-day and a 5-day supply. So I think I alerted for kind of both. And there you can see the 4-day. But just in the interest of having some slightly more aggressive entries, so that has dropped down and it's gone straight back into daily demand. So I don't know if we're just going to get some sideways chop now, and we're just going to get like these small scalps where, in this case, straight off daily supply, straight down into demand, and we just need to see what happens. But yeah, these are an example of some of the more aggressive short entries I'm putting in, just because something like this is in potentially an eternal downtrend, presuming it doesn't have history before here. and therefore could just drop lower. If it does get a move up, then it's got a monthly supply there and a daily, but the monthly is maybe only max C, but worth looking for shorts there if we do get a continuation up. Virtual, okay, so this would be an example of one that I wouldn't look for shorts on weekly 5-day, because we are hitting, so we've hit a 5-day demand and there's a weekly demand a little bit lower. So a nice long entry there. It's getting a bit of a slow grind up. I had an alert in here for retest of 12-hour and daily, which it hasn't quite got to. Is looking like it's going to create that 3-day demand here today as well, barring a dump in the next few hours. So this might give you a more aggressive long entry, you know, maybe it won't come back down into here. But again, that's the challenge, you know, are these things that haven't taken out these lows going to give one last move to drop, take out these lows? Maybe some of the others that are weaker are going to make a lower low, but some of the others, like of these that are on a demand, are going to make it the higher low in here, but still take some stops before finally turning into a proper move up. But yeah, due to being on demand here, I'm not looking for immediate shorts there, and the trend line stopped, so I'll look for shorts. What's that, a 2-day? So some of these I'm alerting this 2-day supply. So we had a 2-day, and then we had that initial drop which caused the big wick on many of these things, and then, you know, many of the things have just died since then. So I'm just going for some of these, just the supply right above there, because after that bounce a lot of them just didn't get back to where the surprise drop happened on the 1st of February. So that's virtual. Vista, again, another one on demand, another one with a real chop coming down, so I don't want to put aggressive shorts on it. If it does come down here, why I didn't set that alert, or maybe because I thought it was just going to break up. So it's just a bit messy through here. I'm not really sure what it's going to do. Is it going to make it as a weekly supply? It's in a 2-day inside it, could potentially get through here, but this is not something, again, I really want to long yet. It's going to make a daily demand, so if you're desperate to buy this for some reason, there are better things to buy, but then... So yeah, I mean, on that, you know, again, the things to buy are the ones that have either made it significantly through these local supplies, or at least up here somewhere in it. Then you can potentially look for the long entries on retest of new demands. But just be careful if they're still like this, still in supply, because this could still very easily, you know, similar to here, just have a bit of a double up move, you know, makes a new demand, tests demand, tries again, fails, and then continues the drop. And then yeah, 3-day, 1-day demand down here would be next possible long entries if it does continue the drop. VAN, I had an alert here for 5-day and weekly demand, and it's struggling, like, you know, it had an initial little bounce, but then made daily supply and is now coming back down. I kind of reset the alert for a bit lower in case it gets down to this 12-hour demand at the start of that pump. And then, you know, there is a 2-month level down here, but whether it's a decent or valid one given the initial move, possibly not. But you know, this is on weekly demand. This is like one of actually the more interesting charts if it holds. It's got space to supply. 3-day up there, it has already tested that 3-day. And then, you know, on the 2-day, it's only got local supply on the 2-day, so it's got some nice space here if it can get through this immediate zone. So that's something to keep an eye on. It's got a 12 or 8-hour demand in here now, but no, I wouldn't be entering this. So it's already held for a bounce. So yeah, I mean, this I'm probably still waiting for a bit lower, and or just it needs to give it a little bit more in here to make me think this is going up. But it's worth keeping an eye on. Voxel, another one in a really nasty downtrend. Is going to create a 3-month supply offset and a 3-month up here. So it's going to have a better 3-month in there, and a 2-month has already been created just below. So if it comes back up, I'd look for shorts there. Again, I don't know why I haven't. Probably my indecision as I was going through this, you know, just about zones that have already been tested, etc. I don't know why I didn't want to, again, aggressively short. Maybe I put more aggressive shorts in towards the end, thinking I was putting all of them too far away. But this I think is worth because it's broken down now. Is it tested that 2 week? So it's got an untested 2 week here, and then this 5 day. So I think that is worth an alert, because if this works, that could then potentially have a significant drop if we're at a bottomless, breaking all-time low, 5 day supply. But it is hard now. I don't know if we are at points like these where I'm going to end up basically shorting the bottom, or worse like this, where we're suddenly just going to get a pump straight through it. This would have been the same at that point in time. It would have been like looking like it's broken down, etc. But also what we do tend to find is when we do get the pumps, it will go straight through really quickly, so it won't necessarily stop you out. So you see this on the daily, that may have given a reaction there, but then had its continuation. So it may just, I wouldn't limit any of these, but when the alerts go, you can then just assess, if you're suddenly getting strength in a giant green candle, then obviously you don't FOMO in immediately when it hits the zone. VRA, another sort of similar structure. Yeah, so this has come off a 2 month level there, so again I was a little in two minds indecisive about it. I did have an alert here for 6 month demand. If it gets lower, it's got 2 month supply there. And it's going to make a 3 month inside higher. So again, it's got some local supply in here, but that, this would be my preferred, start looking at the 2 month and then the 3 month levels inside if it gets back up there. Again, I don't know why I've got the alert for the long, which is much further away, but then put the alert for the short more than for the long. 2 months supply, 3 months a bit higher if it confirms. Yeah, so there's a 3 day up here, so this actually is probably a preferable level to this, but this would be the more aggressive entry, and I am seeing, some of these 2 months immediately reject, so I do want to consider this as a possible entry. Then there's a daily right there and some wicks, so we could just get a move up to there and a rejection, and then failing that I'd look at the 3 month above. And yeah, this could hold here on this 2 month level, but my preference would be for it to go lower into the 6 month. But again, there's nothing I want to long this on a low time frame yet. VR is looking like it's going to be the same, so again, yeah, another similar broken. All these lows could still be a deviation, but does have potentially, it's got 2 month supply. No, it hasn't actually confirmed the 2 month yet, but it's ignore the 3 months, so it's likely to confirm 3 month supply at this level. And I put the alert at weekly inside that zone. It's such interesting charts when you look at them, like things like this, you can look with hindsight and think you just could have shorted it every week for about a year. Maybe not, I'm exaggerating, but you know what I mean. But it's rare that happens. More often than not, you get much more chop. So yeah, so anyway, I put an alert for weekly supply up there. It may or may not be too conservative, but again, I want a mix of some at the level and then some at higher zones inside. So we'll see on this. If this is a deviation, this could just continue up, be slightly more conservative. Again, there's nothing I want to long on this at the moment. Again, might create the 3 day. So something like this, if this does create the 3 day demand, let me just look at the daily. Yeah, if this does create a 3 day demand today, this would be something I'd be more inclined to look for long. So if we get a close above there, 4717 on the 3 day, then it has so much space, compared to the other ones that I've looked at that look much more like this, and you're like, well, I don't know where it's going to reject. Something like this is less likely. The downside of this is that it's broken a low, it's not in a bigger demand. So in a perfect world, what you're looking for is something like this with a big drop without having made significant supply, that's also in a bigger demand to the left, but then has this space up to the next supply. That would be the perfect long if you can find a chart that looks like that. But this at least is one step ahead of anything that's got weekly 5 day supply, like most of the charts I've just looked at throughout the Vs. This is another similar one. This has a lot more supply, but it's daily, 2-day, 3-day. Most of them have already been tested. So if this level holds, this could, again, it's got room to move. So I think I quite like VETHO, but I set an alert for taking out these lows. I don't know if that did quite, yeah. So it did slightly swing fail there, and has held this daily demand, or 2-day demand, but is now in daily supply. So it still, again, needs a bit more time on this, but an interesting chart and something that should be, again, higher on your list to watch. Not quite ready yet. Potentially, if we do get another drop, I've got an alert here for monthly and weekly demand, so that would be a preferred entry. But this is, again, a nice one to enter on the long side if you can get the long entry because of the chop and already tested zones on the way down, no significant weeklies. As you can see, similarly here, you know, that it ends up with a massive push. So that is something that could happen on this still. Hi Olivia Eagle, don't know if you're still watching, but I saw you followed. Always nice to have a new follower. Triple V, so I think on this, yeah, I had an entry in the hope that maybe this, I think that was 12-hour and 8-hour demand at the start of this pump would hold. It has held, but it's obviously come much deeper inside. I then had another follow-up entry on this 12-hour demand. Obviously, I said it when it was over here, it's taken a bit longer than I'd like to hit. So there's two issues you can have. So when you get a retracement like this, like really you want the retracement to hit quite fast, because then you've got momentum. If it does come down slowly like this, at least what it's telling you is that it's consolidation. There's not a significant sell-off. So again, can still do that bigger move. But the problem it also has is it's then made a lot more supply. So I'm always a bit in two minds of, you know, like the market's going to have to be bullish overall in order for this to just pound through supply, or people are just wanting to buy VVV for whatever reason they want to buy VVV, if it's got hype or something. So something like this, like now, maybe I would wait or try and watch for a trend line break, but again, it's still, yeah, it's still from a daily perspective. Let me just check the 2-day. No. So from a daily perspective, we're still in a daily downtrend. Momentum has definitely died off and we're in demand. So again, something that's worth keeping an eye on, but I don't know if it's going to be quite ready, and it's a risky trade. And I've got a possible short here on 4-day supply, but this is also messy, so I wouldn't necessarily say that's overly high probability either. Okay, moving on to the W's. Waves is very much going sideways, and I think with this I didn't put anything on it because I have no clue what this wants to do. Trying to remember now. So this, yeah, we've got a monthly demand that it's hit down here. It's now going to have, I think, 3 months supply by the looks of it. It's likely, oh no, it's already got a 3-month supply in there. Made a new monthly supply, so yeah, okay, so we've had a bounce off this monthly demand, we've come up to the monthly supply, so I am bearish on this, but it is struggling to, it's had 3 wicks up here, and it's now got a 5-day or a 4-day supply in there as well. So yeah, I'm bearish on this based on monthly supply, but then we're coming off monthly demand, and then, as I showed on the daily, where's my mouse gone? As I showed on the daily, obviously this is just really messy. This is not a clean chart, so I'm bearish because it's off monthly supply, so I don't suggest buying this. If we get a move up and it flips some of the 4-day, 5 days into demand, then great, I can reconsider. But for now, I don't want to be bullish, and I just think it's potentially going to take too long. You look at some of the past, some of the PA here. This is a consolidation at the low, so maybe it will end up with a little drop before another move. I don't know. And I've got a yearly level there and a 6-month level. Yeah, so I think even the higher time frame on this, I was just like mind blown, not really sure. So we've got a yearly demand in this candle, but it's the first candle, so again, does it really count? It's also in a 6-month supply, so I think my bigger picture is bearish, but I don't know if it's really significantly bearish. I think it's indecisive. It does have this monthly demand, it's come back up into monthly supply, so something I just don't really want to trade. If it comes back down here, look for longs, and if it goes up there to the weekly, look for shorts. But yeah, I just ended up with not putting any alerts and just thinking I want more extremes before trading this. Wax. So this has made an annual supply. So I think I've just gone fairly simple. It's got other zones. It's going to have a 3 month before that, and a weekly before that as well. But again, 3 week, 1 year supply. Again, some I have further away and some I have closer. That doesn't necessarily mean it's going to get up there. This is in a downtrend. I think I did have also this, where's it gone? Disappeared, the old chart. Here we go. Yes. Oh, I know. Just pulled the alert. I used to have these alerts so they were fixed, but now you also, if you drag them on the chart, then it would warn you and say, you just dragged your alert, do you want to save it? And you would say, no, God no. But now they just drag and save automatically. It was extremely irritating. So all-time low here is just around 0.016, and this is, I think, the Bittrex chart, so this is just an old chart. But again, that's why I've got this random orange level. So I know we're not at all-time low. We're somewhere down here. Where are we? 0.25. So we're somewhere down here in the terms of this historical chart. So we are in a 6 month demand. But also we have now made an annual supply. So I would look for shorts if we come up there, and potentially longs if we get a swing fail of this all-time low. When? I feel like this is going to take way too long to get through all these. I need to speed myself up a bit. Okay, so let me light a cigarette and then I can focus. Right. So when fall off the trend line, this is going to have, so this is maybe 2 months supply. It's already rejected that 2 month supply. So it's got a 6 month supply up the top there, which you probably can't see very well, but hasn't quite tested that. It then made a 2 month, which it has rejected for this bigger down move. This is why I say it's so important as well to look at all your time frames, because I've saw a number of people, I think, looking for longs here. It's higher low, blah blah blah. It looks like it could bounce, support, etc. But if it's made a 2 month supply and it would have just closed that, yes, this is the end of January. At the end of December, it would have just closed that. You just know that you shouldn't be longing straight into a 2 month supply. Sure, it might go up higher in it, but it's not a high probability trade, and you can see now how much it's rejected, having just come off it here with that wick, and then it's come down really hard. So this has got a 2 week and a weekly supply immediately above the price, and it's also got a 5 day and a 4 day and a mess. So again, I think I just left it alone, not confident of taking longs. It's potentially going to make that 4 day demand in there today, but I think it's also not really clean enough to take shorts. I think again the lower time frames were just situation uncertain. Like, I just don't know if this is going to get a bigger push now, and again, like I've said, across the market, with some of the mess that's through here, it's hard to know if these are now ready to push out. But so on this, I'll leave the alert more conservative up here on retest of the 5 day there. It has had a big drop. It's getting decent consolidation through here. But yeah, just be conscious on this if you're looking for longs that it's got a weekly supply right under the breakdown. So yeah, you would really want that weekly to flip to support before looking for a long entry. With, okay, so another one potentially could turn bullish, so weekly demand, nice entry there, but still need to see what weekly supply. So I have put an alert there on this one for weekly supply, but the alert's black, as you can see, and I think I've said in it that we're coming from weekly demand now, so possibly looking for long re-entries more than shorts. So I just want to see what the reaction is here, and or if we get through it, then similarly up here we've got a 2 month supply, but this could be a decent move even if it does get up all the way up to 2 month supply. But again, I can't justify looking for longs immediately. Has made, so we are seeing actually some of these do have this 3 day demand, and I'm seeing some of these hold. They look ugly and small because they're ugly because of the nasty wick. But I'm seeing some of these hold on the retest. But again, just another one that's very hard when it's right under this supply to then kind of go, oh, well, let's look for an aggressive long on 3-day demand in here. So I'm going to leave that. Wing. This was holding a range up here, and I think if we look at the 3-month, you can see the 3-month was all closes above this, and what we're looking at potentially now is a 3-month pending the last week that is going to close finally below this orange level. If that's the case, then I will certainly be looking for a short on a retest of the 3-month supply there. Like I said, it's got stuff in between. It has already swing failed this into the 2-month level. So yeah, we've got another week till this closes, so let's just see. But yeah, I would look at a rejection off that 3-month supply and then potentially coming down to take out this low. Win. Another one that's going to have 3-month supply. I think some of these, even when I was charting them, I was like speeding up. This is not dissimilar to Wing, actually. I assume they are different charts. But yeah, this is still holding the base of the range. So again, more conservative on the possible short entry, but it is potentially a 3-month supply. It also has a 2-month in there, 2-week below it. So yeah, again, you can look for more aggressive shorts on this if you want. I've just gone slightly more conservative, again, just in the interest of having a mixture across the board. Is this Wild or WLD? Another one that's broken below the low. So this is one, again, I put a more aggressive short entry on it. I'm a little bit wary of the stops above there. Now coming through. It's looking like it's going to make a 4-day or a 3-day. So it actually has a 3-day demand there, although it did come down deep into it. It's probably going to make a 4-day demand here today. So yeah, again, I just want to see the reaction. So on the basis of this having broken the low, assuming it's not going to be a deviation, then I would expect to potentially get a short somewhere here. Maybe on the weekly, slightly conscious of the trend line stops, but a potential short somewhere for continuation down. If this fails and we go back up through there, then maybe it's a deviation of the low and we can look for longs. But again, the challenge is we're going to go straight into 2-month, 3-month supply. And it's another example. So this obviously has an annual supply at the high as well. I don't know if it tested it. Let's hide my drawings quickly. Yeah, so again, you can see we had an annual supply there. It's just tested up into it on this month's or this year's candle and has dumped straight off it. So I remain bearish on the yearly on this. And it's just a question of how much retracement we get before I expect continuation down. Moving on, Wojak. Okay, so we're in, just hide some of my drawings so I can see what I'm doing. We're in a bigger 2-week demand here. I think this was, again, just sort of quite a messy chart. Reminds me a little bit of PopCat, actually. It's got a 2-week supply in there. It's going to have a 3-month up here, so I think I just went for the slightly more conservative. It's messy because I just don't really know if this demand is going to be strong enough to propel a really decent move. So I need to just wait and see on this. It doesn't. Did it make a weekly supply there? Kind of made a weekly supply by a hair, but obviously it's coming back through it now. This is something you could look for longs on. So this is going to create a 4-day demand today. So again, presuming this creates a 4-day demand today, which is looking like it will, this is something, again, I'd be more confident looking for longs. We are in a major demand. It's got space to the next supply. So it's going to make a 4-day and it's going to make a 3-day potentially much closer. So yeah, certainly keep an eye on this. If this gets a close, I'm going to take that weekly out because that's just messy and in the way. If this gets close over that level, I mean, maybe it's already held it, but then it's going to be, again, dependent on whether Bitcoin is going to hold. But this is something, while I don't necessarily love where we are at the lows, the demand side, that is demand. There's a 3-month below if it does drop lower, but this at least has space to supply, so it's worth looking for longs on this. Wojak. Some of my levels reappearing. A lot of my levels reappearing. So it's going to make a 3-month supply up here, a 2-month supply is already confirmed there, but this is oh gosh, similar to Wild, was it? You know, Woo, it's potentially broken down. I want to see reaction on these immediate supplies to see if we're going to get a continuation. So as I say, you know, if these break, then maybe I can consider being more long biased, but at the moment, while we're still based on a breakdown, I'm not going to assume it's a deviation. To me, this is a breakdown until proven otherwise, and the only way I can prove it otherwise is by breaking supply. So in this case, I've been slightly more aggressive. I think I put, yeah, had a 1 day before this drop, so I put a 1 day alert on the 1 day here, and then I've said I think there's a 3 day, and then obviously a weekly a bit higher, so it's not overly clear. And the difficulty also is that we're going to have a 2-month supply immediately above if it does run through this zone. But yeah, this is not something I want to long either, even though it's going to make the same 4 day and 3 day demand in there. I have to say though, market wide, like, I'm reasonably happy that we're making, or it's looking like we're going to make these 3 and 4 day demands. There's some that are going to be better and higher probability than others, like this less so because it hasn't even got through supply yet and supply is too close. But you know, like these are the first signs, and it's similar to the highs. You know, when people are obviously often waiting for weekly reversals at highs, but it's quite often the 3 day, 4 day, 5 day that have been showing these sooner. So yeah, now we're starting to show three day and likely 3 day and 4 day demands on most charts. It's making me more confident that we're going to get some sort of move up. This one, for some reason, I put a 4 day demand. I think maybe I thought this wouldn't get back down here. This is rejecting harder than I would have thought. Let's put if it confirms, because it may not confirm. So again, this is something that's got space. It's got nothing to the left, which makes me not overly confident. Not loving this wick, which probably wouldn't have been there when I charted this. But again, does have space to supply. So it's got a 2 month up here. It's got equal highs at the top. So yeah, I think it's worth looking for longs on a retest on this. And this is the first one I've actually given a long retest entry, but it's also because I'm preempting the 4 day demand being created. Okay, so moving on to the X's. More aggressive on the short side on this, just to have a more aggressive entry. So that's just, it's got a weekly that was tested, and now it's got a 5 day right below that. And XAI, at least this is not a hype coin that I think people talk about. So that weekly actually hasn't been tested on the weekly, but has been tested on the lower time frames. But yeah, again, like I say, in the interest of having a more aggressive entry, it's got this daily supply in here, not dissimilar to the, I think it was Woo, I think it was, that we were just looking at. Anyway, I won't go back and check. But yeah, just to have a more aggressive short entry in case we're going to get some continuation. If it does fail, then 2 month supply all the way up there. XAUT, I have no idea what this is. Hadn't obviously charted this for a very long time, but it's probably one of the most bullish charts that we've got for whatever reason. Maybe it's only shortable on, only on MEXC and KSEX, so I guess people aren't selling this. So I thought, what the hell, put an alert here for 1 week, 2 week demand. I hate charting these things because inevitably it'll go up for a decade, and then the second I go, I'll put a long entry, and that'll be the point that it will decide to break down, and we end up with something like that. It does have a monthly zone below, so if this does fail, then there is a monthly that I would be more confident of looking at. Obviously, I'm not shorting that. I would have to look at the other charts as well to see if these wicks exist. Let's have a quick look at the MEXC chart. Tether Gold, this is wiki as hell anyway. I don't know what Tether Gold is. Is this actually gold? Let me have a look. So I guess it's tethered to gold. I guess that's why it's bullish anyway. That makes much more sense. But yeah, I don't know how closely it's tied to gold. Actually, no, that is the same as the gold price. Is this just the equivalent of PAX G, I guess? Maybe. In which case, yeah, then I'm more confident looking for what weekly, and if it was a crypto, then I would think this is just going to die at any second. But if this is tethered to gold, then it is worth looking for longs on that 1 week, 2 week demand there. XCH is looks like it's on the edge of death. So yeah, I'm not confident of this. I went for the, like I mulled this over because obviously I tried to short this here thinking it would break down, and then obviously that didn't work, and then that was when it reversed. So I'm conscious of thinking, well, maybe the same thing's going to happen here. Like in this case, we've got a big wick through and it's trying to hold the level of support. But then I kind of removed my nervousness and kind of thought, well, it's potentially going to create a 3-month supply immediately above. And some of these can reject early. It's already got a 2-week in there and it's rejected off the weekly just below that. So it may not even get up to my cross now, but because it just keeps building supply. But again, the worst case scenario is you get stopped out, but I think it's worth looking for shorts here. Or failing that, maybe up into the 3-day in there, like even if it just gives some sort of sideways consolidation like this, because this could, and now at least give a bigger breakdown. XCN, more levels reappearing at random. Yeah, this is an interesting chart. I had this aggressive short in ages ago, just saying, well, this has slightly front run the weekly level up there, and I was like, well, it's made a 3-day supply, you might as well try and look for a short in here and see what happens, because it potentially got a very big drop. But obviously it's just done this it's been a good trade, but it's only done this very slow grind down. So we're now back in daily demand here. The problem I have with this is that I can't say, when you set the alerts on trend lines, it sets on a linear scale. So if you look at the linear, the trend line is not useful. So I really wish I could set an alert on a log trend line. Anyway, I had an alert for the daily demand, so it's obviously got a bounce, but hasn't got very far and has now made weekly supply immediately above there. So I don't know, it feels too aggressive to look for shorts like right there, and then above, as you saw, maybe there's the 5-day. I think I had an alert set there, and then I was like, I don't know, I'm not sure. Like here, I was considering. So I think I set it and then I deleted it, and then yeah, because when you look at the lower time frames, let's go 3-day, 2-day, daily. Yeah, when you look at the lower time frames, it's just very, very hard to judge. Yes, it's a clean 5-day, but there's so much else going on around it, and it may just fall off from here. So I don't know. Anyway, you can keep an eye on that if you want to. If it does run, then maybe it can run through this whole move and get a decent move up, but obviously it's not showing any sign of that yet. Had no follow-up to this initial up move, and now has weekly supply right above. Down here would be the next long entry. So if it starts to fall off, then I would definitely be looking for shorts if we actually get some decent red candle. XDC, so this is obviously in a yearly supply at the highs. Okay, this had multiple tests on the yearly supply and also has a 6-month demand, so I would want this lower, whether or not I get given it. I don't want to short it because it's very close to 6-month demand, like it is in annual supply, but I think it also hit here, and this is the second move up into annual supply. So I want to see the reaction if it hits this 6-month demand. But yeah, I'm not willing to short it just because of that wick, and I just don't know if this is going to run, and the zones aren't clear, similar to a lot of the other, charts. One moment. Put my heating back on. Yeah, so look at this 6-month and 1-day level. Should it retest down there? XEM, I think this was another one I didn't put anything on, not dissimilar to waves, it's just sideways. It's 2-month demand at the lows, gave a decent bounce, but now is coming off annual supply at the highs and has tested into that annual supply there. So given the annual supply at the highs in this test, I expect this to take out the low, but it's faffing around and it's got 2 monthly and monthly demand in there. Not going to make it, hasn't made any new supply, so yeah, that would have been a nice short on 3-week supply or even on this 2-week, but they are before I looked at the chart. So my preference is obviously for this to take out the low now, but there's nothing I want to short, and I don't want to short so close to 2-month demand. So yeah, very similar to waves on the low. It looks actually much more bearish than waves, but very similar on the lower time frame, and they're just nothing really tradable on it, just a sideways hell. Zion, oh, this is now looking quite bullish. So yeah, I think I did look at this yesterday and I was liking it, but it was in weekly supply, so it was a non-trade zone. But now obviously is, I'll leave that just in case it swing fails, but yeah, so 1 week demand, bit choppy, and still in 1 week supply. So now it's not in 1 week supply, but it is a bit choppy, low time frame. So I was looking for the test down here. I thought maybe, you know, it can flip this level and not come back for me, but again, so be it, because for me, I have to wait for the retracements. Unless this is given another daily. Okay, so it does have a daily demand in here. So I do think that is potentially worth. So this is difficult because again, like it's still, let me look at 12 hour. So we're still struggling a bit with this 12 hour. I'm going to put the aggressive just to see. So yeah, I would look for aggressive longs on this, on the daily, this new daily demand. So the difficulty and the concern is that it's potentially, with those wicks, is they're potentially just trying to swing fail this level. But yeah, that would be the aggressive entry on daily demand. Failing that, then I would look at the weekly. But again, this is a big zone, and as I said, choppy, low time frame. So yeah, I need to kind of establish if this is going to be a breakout right now. I don't know why I put trend lines in there, I find them quite useless, but anyway, given it's made a new daily demand here, it has had a decent move up from it. I think it's worth looking for an aggressive long there and potentially taking out, because it's got space that it can go if it holds. If it doesn't hold, then it's probably going to take a lot longer to consolidate, but yeah, watch from the weekly down here. XLM, more zones reappearing. A lot more zones reappearing. Okay, hide those away. Okay, so XLM obviously is really just copies Ripple. This has got a monthly supply up here, so I've just alerted for a short if it retests monthly supply there. Could this go up from here? If Ripple does, then yeah, for sure. And maybe it'll just blast through these zones. You know, this is still, so I think we do have a yearly demand. Yeah, so in this case it's similar to Ripple, that it's made this yearly demand by the closing above this candle. It's not strong because it hasn't closed above the wick, and obviously it's trying to hold the first daily demand inside that annual. So given it's got annual demand, this could just run from here. This could just suddenly get strong, but it's going to need Ripple to support that. And then, like I say, we now have, the monthly supply in fact has already been tested. That's interesting. But it does have a weekly and a 2 week supply. So I think it's worth looking for shorts there for potentially a move down, but just if Ripple suddenly breaks out, then just leave this alone, because that annual and this first daily is still holding that bullish structure on the daily. So this could just run from here and break out. So we shall see. XMR I talked about at the start of the stream. Like I say, I had an aggressive short on this 5-day supply that's just been hit today, and I would like to see this trend line taken out. I may or may not get that. This is an early short. It could still run up to here, and it's obviously quite wicky and quite messy, as you can see anyway. XNO. So this is on a 6-month demand. So on a 6-month demand, and it's come quite deep inside. So this is what I'm finding. I'm finding a lot of actually the 6 months that were created have actually broken down. But in this case, it's come very deep inside it, but it's held. It has no monthly or 2 monthly supply above, but it does have a 3 week. So yeah, I think I'm quite indecisive on this, and again, that's lacking entries. So we've got a monthly supply, it's hit once, and then it's hit again for the second time. It's got a 6-month demand that it's come really deep inside, but there's too much supply above for me to think, oh yeah, let's long this because it's on 6-month demand. I think I just said supply, I meant demand. So again, yeah, something like this, I need to see more. I mean, this actually is giving reasonable consolidation. but I don't know if we're going to get a lot longer like this. But yeah, I can't justify longing this right under this 3 week, 2 week, 1 week supply. It's too, yeah, it's just too close, and that, you know, might run up to 1.2 or something. But you know, this could potentially be high time frame bullish. Unfortunately, there just isn't a low time frame entry that I want, or lower, even mid time frame entry that I want on it right now. And it is in this daily zone there. But yeah, no, it's too messy for me. So yeah, I'll just leave that alone. I think I did put an alert down here, like if it does come down and take out these lows into weekly demand down there, that would be a kind of nice entry. And again, I've seen, like I say, I've seen that on quite a few of these with this 6 month. They are coming down, excuse me, wicking out and taking out the lows and then closing back inside, or potentially we've got 6 months, another few months till it closes. But this obviously has wicked down, hasn't taken out the lows, so maybe this is just stronger. But yeah, again, like I can't justify longing this right now, and I don't want to short when we're on 6 month demand. XRD, this is just ugly. So this made annual supply. Show you without the drawings. So it's made annual supply up here, it's rejected, it's made a new annual supply here, but it hasn't tested it yet. However, did test the level on the 6 month. But obviously this is very clearly in a strong downtrend. And then we're going to make 3 month supply there. We've already got a 2 month. And then I think for whatever reason I've been slightly more aggressive on the short on this. So yeah, there's a 3 week supply, which I've put the short entry on. Not really sure why now when I look at it. Let's see if I put anything in the comment. No. I think maybe because it might reject the wicks and then front run coming up into the 2 month. Possibly, maybe that's what I was thinking. I might at least put in the comment, 2 month is just above if it runs through. 2 month just above. But again, that's just slightly more aggressive for the lower high. Possibly I was thinking that these zones had already been tested up here. That's the other reasoning I can give. But yeah, just a little bit of a more aggressive entry there. But yeah, this is definitely not something I want to long, although looking at like it'll make the same 4 day, 3 day demand, 5 day demand that everything else is. But there's not enough strength on this yet for me to even consider looking for longs. Excuse me, my voice is starting to fail now. I've had nobody talking to me today. This is more dull than normal. It becomes more fun when people talk to me. Anyway, okay, so XTZ is on a monthly demand. Okay, so we had a strong bounce off the monthly demand, but then obviously it's come back much deeper inside. I think I wanted it to take out these equal lows, if not all-time low. So I set an alert for that before. But obviously it's held a bit higher. So this is another one that just has chopped very close to the price. You know, it's rejected off a 3 day up here. It's made a 3 day and a 5 day below it. So it's not something I want to long. Personally, would prefer it to take out the lows first. However, it's definitely not something I'm going to short right now. If it does suddenly get an up move, I would look for shorts up there. And you know, if this does make, you know, if this is a structure where excuse me, we've been in a downtrend, it's tested, made a low now, it's made a high, it's swing failed the low and it's also swing failed the high, so it's also made a higher. So this could, in the grand scheme of things, be either a broadening wedge, I might remove the brush, either a broadening wedge, which is going to break down, or potentially also a diamond pattern. So if it makes a higher low here, this could then be a diamond pattern and we could see that. So that might be interesting. I might save that drawing for a change. Normally I delete my drawings, but I'd be kind of interested as to whether that may play out in future. It's always nice to look back and see if you've made some assessment that may or may not work. But yeah, anyway, so this could run from here, so you can look for longs if you want, but be aware of the risk of those equal bottoms there, going for that if Bitcoin wants to fall further. And I've only got a few left now, yay. So X, we've got a really nice short on this, up here on 3 week supply. I think I had 2 week, or maybe there was a 2 week and a 3 week. Up there, I already just reset the alert for higher just in case we get a push higher. So I always, as soon as an alert hits, I always kind of reset it for the next zone up in case it gets a second push through. This also now has made a kind of dubious weekly demand down here in line with the previous weekly demand. I did put the possibility of a long in here on this 12 hour. And I kind of said in the comment that it's aligned with this 3 month level from Gate, but I think all the exchanges didn't necessarily have this level, so it was a bit dubious. But either way, some of these when they come down can give a bit of a bounce off the zone. In this case, it doesn't look like it's going to now. It did have an initial bounce at it, but it just went up to 8 hour supply, hasn't gone any higher, and is now drifting deeper in the zone. Might get I don't know if I should put an alert on that weekly. Could get a bounce in here. Not sure if it's going to fill that gap there though, is the other thing. Yeah, I just don't like this big green candle coming up from there, so you know, kind of would prefer it to come all the way back down here. I might just put an alert on the daily down here and see. But then also if it retraces all the way back down there, then it's probably just going to look really bearish again. But yeah, you can just monitor it if it does get there. So yeah, you can monitor this yourself if you want from this weekly level at what's that, 63. But yeah, it could possibly retrace this whole wick if it wants to. Particularly now it's coming off 3 week supply. But anyway, it has had a decent up move, so keep an eye on it. You know, maybe it'll swing fail this low into the weekly level and then give you another run. I don't know. Like, I'm not sure if we're here. Like what we're seeing on some alts, you know, like obviously we could be here where we just get like this, and then, you know, and that obviously didn't test, it didn't fill whatever gap this was. Or we are seeing on some alts is that they're having exit pumps because they're being delisted, and that then this is just like this. Much is what you see here. So it's you know, situation uncertain at the moment, but I can see, you know, we can see what reaction we get if it hits that daily at the bottom. Okay, so what have we got here? XVG. I think I quite like this chart actually. So again, one of the few that's actually holding demand, like so many of these just blasted straight through these 3 month, 6 month monthly demands. So this has actually held the monthly and doesn't have much supply on it. So I think I actually quite like this. It's got a 2 week in there with trend line stops. It's got an untested 5 day at the top there. So this again is one I quite like, but it's coming into a 5 day level here. But yeah, I think, I mean, this, if it creates this new 4 day demand in here, let me look at 3 days quickly. Okay, so 3 days closer. If it creates 3 day, 4 day demand here, this is something that's probably worth considering. Coming off a monthly level, it's, you know, very possibly it's going to plow through those stops. It's got some space. It could reject off the 3 day here, but it's got some space up to the 5 day supply. It is overarchingly bullish, in fact, you know, higher lows throughout. So maybe it would make it all the way up there. Who knows? It's probably a little optimistic in this market, but yeah, it's just the concern, you know, when I look back at things, it's just like, well, this is the first bounce, you know, and all these, people just thinking, yes, it's going to go, yes, it's going to go, and then finally it goes, you know, this takes, you know, this is what, 3, 4 months, 5 months, July to October, we'll say 4 or 5 months. You know, is this just going to suddenly move up? It doesn't seem very likely, but then things can surprise you, you know, like that. So I don't know, but this is something I actually quite like. Let me just look and see if there's anything. There's a 2 day down here. I need to think this through a little bit to see where I want to put the long entry. The daily did get tested. But I think this is certainly, I mean, if this confirms a 4-day demand, this is certainly worth watching. I might throw that entry in here now because it doesn't look like it's going to confirm, or that alert, should I say, not entry. Oh no, run out of alerts. See, that's what happens when you set too many alerts. I just don't like it. As soon as I get down to the daily, I don't like them anymore. It's difficult. Anyway, 4-day demand if it confirms. And then also untested 2-day below. So it would be kind of there, I would look in, well, this zone, or potentially here. So again, they're very close together. So, you know, if you want to trade this on the high time frame, then just trade it and put your stop below the low, else just watch the lower time frames and see what reactions you get. It's also like the others, as I've said, you know, I've said a number of these I wouldn't trade because they're too close to supply. Excuse me, and that does make me a little bit nervous for the same reason here. I mean, this at least has a bit more space to the weekly up there, but then also is right in a 5-day now. And I'm just, yeah, I am concerned of whether we're going to, you know, we need months of consolidation before any actual decent up move. But I guess we are seeing some things taking off, so yeah, it's probably worth considering. But yeah, keep an eye on that one. That's kind of a reasonable one. I'll try and summarize some of these in the channel later once I go through the video a bit more. This, I think, yeah, was very tentative. It was another one that I potentially liked. It's coming off again 3-month demand, but I think I wanted to see more of this because if it closes under there, it might create 3-month supply. If it closes under here, it might create 2-month supply, but obviously it's pushing right now, so at the moment doesn't have either of those supplies. Does have a 3-week supply, which I quite like, so I don't know why I didn't alert that. Let me think about that again. Maybe I didn't alert that because of the 3-month demand. Oh yeah, no, I think also because, yeah, because it's off a higher low. Yeah, I don't like it. Because it's already had a couple of wicks into that area. It's not a lower low on this 3-week supply, so it's not necessarily a good one. It might get a reaction there. I think, yeah, I just didn't love the messiness of this. And the higher low means this can potentially get taken out for a higher high. Very nice short entry up there anyway. Yeah, I don't know, I mean, you can look for shorts here if you want to. Clearly I've just run out of alerts again, so, and all shorts on this daily supply. Yeah, I think the 3-month demand and the higher low made me a little bit wary on this, and I thought I'd just rather see it outside of range first. So you can see a lot of what the challenge is on these. You know, like, because you can argue, well, if I don't want a short supply, then maybe I should long demand. But I think my preference for the longs are things without history, because, so, you know, for things that look like this, then I'm just dealing with one set of supply, new supply, it's been tested already, this could just run straight through, and it's the first hit on demand. But on the case of the older stuff, you know, you're dealing with multiple hits on demand. You're having to ascertain whether, okay, so this has made a demand here. It's had multiple hits on it. That hasn't gone, you know, obviously it hasn't made a higher high at that point. It's rejected off immediate supply here. So therefore the logic is that this then takes out these lows to get to better demand, which is then maybe able to get the bigger move. The counter argument is that also, well, this is retraced, we've had a bounce, and now we're making a higher low, and then we expect to make a higher high. But in this case, you can also see in this example that, you know, it bounced, but it hasn't made a higher high, and now it's come down for better demand. So there's so much complexity that goes into the structures and what the price is doing when you have all this new history. It's ironic, actually, that I say when you don't have history, it's more risky, but actually thinking about it in a way, it's less risky. You've got clean zones that have already been that haven't been tested before, that are probably going to give decent reactions, you know, much like you had here. You know, even if you like, I don't try and get, you know, these stupid moves because I think it's predominantly guessing, but, you know, something like this, that at least you're getting, you know, a high probability trade that's off a clean zone that hasn't been tested before. Whereas now, you know, we're stuck between a monthly supply up here. So this monthly supply got swing failed, so then we sell the retest and it's come down. But it's now down in 3-month demand, so I'm not sure if it's a long, I don't know. Anyway, you can see my indecision and thought process. Then finally we have XYRO, which obviously is ugly. Yeah, I think again, there's not anything that I want to put on this. If it comes up here and actually starts being like a normal price thing, then maybe we can look for shorts once it gets made a monthly supply and once it gets to the 3-day up here. But like, I think that wick is just, I don't know what that is, and clearly this has very, very little volume, so it's not something I really advocate trading. Anyway, so that's the last of the X's, and this stream has been almost 3 hours. Go me. And I'm yet again losing my voice. I need more people to come and talk to me because that would make life more interesting. So there's a couple of things I want to do at the end. I need to look at DAG because somebody asked me in the comments of a previous stream to look at it and said they thought it looked quite like ADA. So I wanted to show that yes and no is the answer. And yeah, so I'll have a quick look at that now, and then I'll also look at, well, let me first look at actually a couple of those alerts that came in while I've been doing this. So what do we have? Oh, didn't even see that. So we had form, which I think I talked about at the start. So that's come up again. So there we go, there's an entry, another entry for you even while I've been doing the stream. With form coming back up into that 4-hour supply. Then we've had ALON, which I said is just messy, but so this is one of the kind of, I like the look of this chart on the higher time frame. My concern is also it's just a bit choppy on the lower time frame. So my preferred entry for this is on the weekly demand down here if it gets a retest. It is still in 2 weeks supply, so I'm probably far too early, and it does make me a bit nervous because I did get excited about ZKL, and it did give some nice entries, but then eventually died. So I did put an aggressive entry on the 2-day demand here. I made the comment that it may be too aggressive, but I want to see if it's ready to break out because it did get a close above this weekly level and above that weekly level. That's the 2-week level down there. Actually, it hasn't closed yet. So yeah, anyway, so I thought I'll go for just see what this 2-day demand does, but it is weak demand because it hasn't broken the high. So yeah, obviously we come down into that a little bit now. I'm going to reset this alert for down here in case this breaks down. But yeah, ALON has been, I have no idea what it is, but it's been one of the more bullish picks because of this double bottom, this sideways consolidation. Don't really like the stop gathering below, but if the market does get bullish, at least, and also the other thing is this has no supply, so it's had a lot of accumulation, has no supply, so I kind of like that perspective. But also, like I say, I had to get burned on ZKL on this, where, you know, to be fair, it did have bounces on every zone that I wanted, but then eventually it just couldn't, you know, none of the bounces could actually break out. But anyway, this is something you can watch on that 2-day, and then if you want to be more conservative, you can just set yourself an alert for the weekly below. What else have we got? What charts I want to say? XMR is getting a bit of a reaction off there now. RIF Bitcoin's coming down because we're getting some reactions off these. Render's still pushing. NAVX, the alert was yesterday, so I'll change that one over now. So RIFSOL. Yeah, again, this is another aggressive entry. What did I put on it? Just 2-day demand. I said that's a 2-day. Yeah, so this did have a wick already down into the zone, but closed over afterwards. So yeah, it was just an aggressive one I wanted to watch because, as I've said before, you know, like I don't want to miss these because I'm too nervous to go into them with, you know, like with the chop. So I want to do at least set some on some that have potentially got space to supply. So RIFSOL you can watch. I need to add that to my watch list, and then let's look at SATs. Which other chart should I change over? Probably XMR, because I don't know if many people are going to trade that one anyway. So SATs. Okay, so here's an example of something that's just ploughed straight through. Well, this did actually make a weekly demand. That hasn't tested it, but this is obviously now, after a few tests on this 4-day supply in this case, quite a few tests, it's consolidated sideways and now it's just run straight back up. Let me have a think about this, see if I want to. So it actually has made a 3-month supply and it's already tested it. So we just see what reaction this 3-week gets here. Did have a 2-week, so yeah, it's made a 2-week demand, it's got a pattern into it and it's run hard off there. So I guess that's why this is showing that strength. And it's also made a weekly, actually, in fact that has confirmed. So it made a weekly and then it's just tapped off the top of that weekly for this move today. So again, why it's so important to look at the closes. And I guess that's what I'm hoping for on ALON. That's what I was, that I had that close above. I'm just trying to see if there's a re-entry here at all. So this is obviously just a very aggressive, quick candle. So, maybe this will give a re-entry on here. I don't know, I need to see more of this. If this rejects or 3, so given the fact this is coming from 3-month supply on that test, it's now hitting a 3-week. Yes, it might just be a swing fail of the low. Yes, this might keep going from here. But I want to see it break some supply. Challenge. Let me look at the monthly again. Okay, so there's a monthly up here that hasn't been tested. So as I say, maybe this isn't the highest probability either, because this could just run straight through to that monthly. I'm going to throw the alert back up there. So yeah, this is difficult because it's got a swing fail of the low, so this may just run through supply now, but I don't want to trade that because I'm not going to say something that's going to run through 3 months supply. If this consolidates and stays up here long enough to make this a 2-week demand at the end of the week, this actually had a weekly in there as well, bit of a mess down there. Not a year, weekly. Yeah, if this stays up here long enough, consolidates, comes down slowly, and then I would look for longs on that zone. The difficulty, my concern, is that we have this horrible consolidation thing going on through there. So if you do want to trade this, then just be careful. Look for a wick probably down into here first. If this zone that we've currently hit breaks, there's obviously this 3-month here that could get retested. There is a daily at the top. I'm doing well on my colours today with this big drop here, so this obviously can push higher inside it, but in fact probably preferred short entry on this would be this monthly 5-day up here. But yeah, that's something to keep an eye on. And yeah, so those are the news. So we had RIFSOL and SATs with the new alerts that have come through today. SATs just really shows out how hard it can be to get into some trades. It had 6 weeks, 6-7 weeks of sideways looks like on that, and then suddenly just breaks out in a couple of candles. Welcome to crypto. Okay, so let me go on the form chart and do DAG. It's time for another cigarette as well. Okay, so I pasted all the ADA charts in here so we could see. So initially I looked at the monthly. Fortunately I can't hide my drawings, although I think it hides those images as well. So If you look at the monthly on ADA, yes, I agree. You can see that similarity that we've got this big drop, got a bounce, a higher high. So arguably this is a wave behind what ADA's doing with the current, because this is because it still made a lower low, or DAG still made a lower low at this point in time. And in fact, later at this point in time, made a lower low. So arguably it's a way behind, but I agree. There are some similarities here. The major difference being that this made a higher low, whereas this made a lower low. Both are. Well, this is rejecting off the monthly supply in here, or in fact a 3 monthly supply. ADA's now come up to the net, was rejecting initially off the first monthly supply and then twice off this next monthly supply. The problem I had with this was then looking at the higher time frames, because if we get rid of the monthly, the major difference we have is if we look at the 6 monthly. If you look at the 6 monthly on ADA, it has a 6 monthly demand. So it made a 6 monthly demand here, and that's what's holding the price. You can see on DAG we don't have that, and it's just a sideways range on the 6 month. Similarly on the 3 month, I should also say on ADA on the 6 month, I still potentially expect it to test down here. I still think this has a high potential for being a corrective move, for a move down, drop down into there. People will love to hear. Okay, anyway, 3 month is similar. So again, this had 3 months demand. It tested the 3 month, made the higher low, and then went up, and now has a new 3 month / 6 month demand. Again, this has not made 3 months demand. So while yes, the monthly structure looks kind of similar, if that's what you're looking at, I assume you're looking at some reasonable time frame, not the like weekly or something. Monthly structure looks similar. Go back to the monthly, and we do have monthly demands on all of them. And this again, DAG didn't make a monthly demand at the same time as ADA made a monthly demand, and again hence went for the lower low and into the bigger demand below. So yeah, while there are similarities, there are also kind of major differences. Having said that, like, I think if you read, this is for Brandon, who asked in my previous comments, if you read my Telegram channel, which I hope you are in and do, I put the post in there yesterday saying, I did actually really like this. I kind of thought, okay, we've come down with this 2 month demand, okay, the wick could have been a little lower to be slightly nicer, and we had come up and we were the second test on this 3 month supply at the highs. So I looked at this back at the start of January, and I quite liked it, and I actually did look for possible there was a weekly demand. At this point in time, this was a weekly demand, and the rest of the market was really red, but this was actually quite strong, and had closed a strong green candle. So I kind of thought, well, it's worth looking to see if this can get another push up into this supply. I think at that point in time, also, it was only on MEXC and weeks that can be shorted. I think on MEXC they might be getting rid of this as well for shorting. So I was thinking, okay, well maybe it's because people can't short this, that it's just by nature of being unable to short it, it's going to be stronger. But anyway, sadly, it ploughed straight back through that level and then decided to just follow the rest of the market. Having said that, well, I mean, arguably, it's followed the rest of the market in that it's gone down, but obviously the rest of the market is, kind of down here. So this is retaining the strength that we see on some of the other majors, not on the real shit coins. So that's in its favour. Again, what's against it also is now that it's made a monthly supply here and it's rejecting off that monthly supply. It's got a 2 week just inside it. It's got a weekly that it's just approaching below. It's already tested that weekly, and it's 2 weeks. So again, I just can't justify looking for longs on this now. And I will admit, some of these are difficult for me, and people who are just blindly bullish do better in these scenarios than me. This can be a consolidation, a bullish consolidation for a breakout. And one of my weakest points, actually no, my weakest point is breakout trading, but my weakest point is trading longs right into supply. Like, I just don't want to do it. And so here, for example, I would have been happy to long on this demand. But as soon as it gets up to here, I'm then kind of going, well, maybe this is going to give a short. So I probably put a short and then hope to get the second move down. And these are the ones that I get kind of burnt is too strong, because normally they go straight through and I don't get stopped out on them. I just never take them. But for me, these are the ones I probably most get wrong, is that when we are in an uptrend and I'm kind of going, okay, well, that's broken down. I'll recognize that it's still in demand and still holding local structure, but I won't want to long right into this supply. And thus, you know, potentially I can miss those bigger moves that happen once in a decade. So something like this is a sort of similar scenario. Yeah, we come off the monthly supply, it has rejected it, it's got weekly and 3 week. But so for me, you know, yes, this might do that, because we do have, you know, we have come off just about off the 2-month demand at the low. It has deviated the low. This is, you know, a retest. It's probably at around the 61 fib. So yeah, sure, you can long that if you want, but from a supply and demand perspective, it's not a good trade for me. So it depends what TA you use, but you know, for me, the entry is here on the monthly demand, or under that low, if this hasn't been tested properly. Or, you know, if you do want to be more aggressive, even on this daily here, it's just been missed on that wick. So, you know, if it comes back down and takes out this, then you can enter on that daily with invalidation under the daily and see. But an entry for me is not now. And like I said, that doesn't mean it's not going to go up, and it doesn't necessarily mean I want to short it. Like if I'd seen the monthly supply, I would have said short this. If I charted this more recently and seen that it created monthly supply, I would have put a short entry on that monthly there. And then in this case, you know, it's had a rejection, but it still would have hung out for another 2 or 3 weeks. So it's a very weak rejection for a monthly supply. Whereas it hit again in the last few days. So maybe it hit here at the start of March, and now it's retesting. But for me, this is a short bias based on the monthly supply. It's not one I'd take now because it's hit too many times close to the zone. So yeah, you know, it's up to you if you want to take this as a trade. If you're confident that we're going to get through all this and you're confident in DAG and whatever, that's great. But for me, this isn't a trade I want to take right now. I can't trade anything when it's under weekly and monthly supply like this. So, you know, okay, so what would change my mind? Let me think. And even then, you know, the challenge is even if it goes up higher, like what would change my mind is if it flips like a weekly or a 5 or 4 day, like a high time frame flip. So if price kind of like, so it's made a 3-day demand, which is holding here. If it moves up into here and makes some weekly or 5 or 4 day demand here, then I would consider looking for a long. Still with the high risk, the fact that, you know, we're still in monthly supply, and then we would just be testing this 3 weekly inside it. So like I said, for me, there's just, again, always better longs to be taking if you want to long something. In fact, there's just better longs and better shorts. So for me now, yeah, I guess now currently this is short bias, but I wouldn't short it because it's already tested the zone and it's taking too long. But my bias is short. My long bias would be from down here, or if I see some move up into here, maybe a flip of the monthly level into support at like 50, 51, and then potentially an up move. So yeah, anyway, Brandon, I hope you see this, and I hope that helps. Yeah, I think that's about all I wanted to say on that. But yeah, mainly it was that comparison with ADA. And you can see the difference when you check the 6 month. So when you make those comparisons, like really just check the 6 month, the 3 month. You can use patterns to some extent, but when you've got sideways consolidation and chop like this, you know, it's a swing fail of the high, it's a swing fail of the low. Similar to what I said before, you know, maybe this is going to end up as a diamond pattern, whichever one I said looked potentially like a diamond pattern. I think it was XTZ. We could get a diamond pattern on this. But also, no, diamond patterns are 60-40, so I think it's 60%. I need to check actually, I can't remember. 60% it continues in the direction it came from, and 40% it reverses, I believe. Oops. Anyway, that's that on DAG. And let me put my form chart back on the layout. Where is form gone? There it is. Oh no, it wasn't form actually, it was XMR. I think. No, it was form. Anyway, so ALON's coming down quite hard into that 2-day zone there. But yeah, keep an eye on that one. Let me see what Bitcoin is doing before I sign off. Still trucking along. Okay, so interesting that some of those alts are coming down, but Bitcoin is still pushing. Interesting. Anyway, let me just see what the indices are doing. So okay, they may be trying to swing foul these daily supplies now. Yeah, so all the indices made of this 8-hour demand, and it picked up support today. So I thought we'd get a bigger push from here, but it doesn't seem to be wanting to be doing more today than just swing failing the previous daily supply. So I don't know if they're going to get a bigger retracement now. There's been no news today, so I guess that's why we're not having anything particularly exciting happening. So we might have to wait for news over the next few days. Not sure what there is tomorrow. I need to have a look at what news there is tomorrow. Anyway, I think that's it. I mean, that's obviously a very long stream and a lot of what I wanted to cover today. Almost done on the watch list for the alts. When I eventually get done on the watch list, I will, what I want to be doing is just more regular, much shorter streams, and also maybe just streams while I'm working where I can just update alts, and do much more, like many more requests, and rather than just going through the entire watch list, actually look at the things that look good and that are moving and stuff like that. I'm also going to start some copy trading, and I want to start trading Bitcoin and Ether more actively as well. So I want to get a lot more scalp entries and things like that on Bitcoin and Ether. So yeah, anyway, I hope that stream's useful. Give me a shout in Telegram if you have any questions. Please like and subscribe and follow and all the things that help me help you. And yeah, I think that's everything for the day. Have a good evening.